I got loyalty, got royalty inside my DNA. I got love, peace, got war and peace inside my DNA. I got poison, pain, and joy inside my DNA.
Hello guys, welcome back to my channel The Fanfic Fantasy. Join us as we explore the world of fanfiction and fantasy and bring you the best story and discussions. This is the 5th part of What If Neglected Naruto Was Trained by Rayleigh. So give this video a like and subscribe for more videos in future. So let's get into the fanfic. A palpable silence washed over the marine base. The unconscious bodies of the marine foot soldiers that had been defeated by the Kuryuin pirates littered the ground. Not too far from a certain trio were those 2 Kuryuin pirates that had caused all the destruction but were now unconscious as well. Omiko Hakodate and Takaharu Fukuroda, both worth 20 million billy, had been defeated and laid out by a duo of rookie pirates that they had the misfortune of meeting. Naruto and Kurosaki Ichigo had, after hard-fought battles with the 2 opposing pirates, had saved their bounty hunter charge Manoe Ruko from the uniformed pirates. Unfortunately, before they could take a break and recover from their injuries in any substantial way, the boss bitch, as eloquently called by Ruko, had appeared with another unknown pirate, standing at the top of a staircase. And with so many surprises coming one after the other, what else could be said but eyebrows? Naruto blankly repeated, not being able to take his eyes off the female's full, thick eyebrows. Are you still on that? Ruko smacked the blonde in the back of his head. Don't you realize how much trouble we're in right now? I can't help it. Naruto rubbed his head and pointed up to the woman. Just look at them. It's like a caterpillar crawled across her forehead and decided to stay, Naruto described. PFFT Ichigo snorted to himself, covering his mouth with his hand to stifle his chortle. You too? Ruko looked to the swordsman. Of course not. This is serious ... and no matter how ridiculous or true that was. Ichigo composed himself. So ... who are they anyway, Ruko? Naruto asked the girl. Yeah, you called her the boss. She the captain? Ichigo glanced at the bounty hunter. No, she isn't. Ruko glared up at the woman as she looked down on them. But she has just as much power as the captain of the crew because she's her daughter and co-commander of the Kuryuin pirates, Kuryuin Satsuki. Ruko informed the 2. Co-commander, not just co-captain. Ichigo wondered about the specific title. The captain's daughter. Naruto rubbed his chin. So, it's a family thing. Tilting his head, the blonde asked, what's she doing here then if she's so important? Those 2 were after me, remember? Ruko reminded. They were talking about catching me and taking me to their mistress ... her. Ruko tilted her head to Satsuki. That explains why those 2 kept mentioning being short on time. They were trying to make sure they had you ready for her. Ichigo frowned. She probably won't be happy about you beating the snot out of them. Ruko looked to the 2 unconscious pirates. I dunno, maybe she'll let us go, Naruto offered, putting his jacket back on without care. Yeah, I'm sure a pirate from the Grand Line will love having her time wasted. Ichigo rolled his eyes. So, we fight them. In our state ... if they attack first. Ichigo growled at the helpless feeling. Up at the top of the stairs, the 2 high-ranking Kuryuin pirates continued to look down on the 3 as they talked amongst themselves. The man took a glance at the battlefield, roving his eyes over it until they fell on his 2 subordinates lying unconscious against each other. Whistles. They took out Hakodate and Fukuroda, he said in a slightly cheerful but still laid-back tone. That's no easy feat. They may not be the highest on the food chain, but they're no slouches either. These guys are interesting. The teen smirked. Kuryuin pirates, Big 4. The monkey Uzu Sanejama. Bounty, 200 million billy. Sanejama then turned to his leader and looked genuinely apologetic as he addressed her. I'm sorry, Satsuki-sama. It looks like those 2 failed to complete their mission. He bowed at the waist. Rest assured that their failure is my own and will mete out their punishment as soon as possible. Satsuki looked down at Fukuroda and Hakodate, then Naruto and Ichigo, before they finally landed back on Sanejama. There will be no need for that, she said simply. Milady. The monkey rose a brow. It was our failure, not theirs. She closed her eyes. We informed them that Matoe would be alone and were under the impression that she had no allies to rely on. We believed it would be a simple pickup based on this information. But it was clearly proven false. Satsuki opened her eyes once more. Given that, while still needing a slight punishment for failing, they won't need anything severe. Though it is commendable that those 2 were capable of defeating wearers of 2-star Goku uniforms with only mild injuries. Satsuki looked at the 2 rookie pirates. Ain't that the truth? Sanejama smirked and looked back to them. I believe we should allow them a chance to explain themselves. Sanejama, Satsuki softly commanded. Of course, milady. At that his personality did a complete 180 and he shouted down to the trio. Hey, you two, identify yourselves. He came here, shouldn't he tell us who he is first? Ichigo had a vain bulge at the haughtiness. I'm Naruto and this is Ichigo. Naruto called up. Why do you keep doing that? Ruko and Ichigo shouted. Nice to meet you. Sanejama smiled at the blonde. But that isn't what I meant. My lady wants to know just who you are and what your connection to Matoi is. Oh, we're pirates. Satsuki blinked at that. Pirates. She finally spoke to the trio. Yeah, that's right. Naruto said proudly with a smirk. Amusing. And pray tell, why would you feel the need to get in the way of another pirate's business? Geez, these guys are like broken records. Ichigo had the funniest sense of deja vu. Because I can do whatever I want. Naruto shouted back. I like Ruko and I don't need any other reason than that. He ended by sticking his tongue out at Satsuki. I cannot argue that as pirates we are permitted to doing anything that we see fit, so I will not hold what you've done to my subordinates against you. If anything, it is admirable that you, two nothings, were capable of defeating them, Satsuki complimented. Did she just praise us and insult us in the same sentence? Ichigo's eye twitched. I think so. Naruto tilted his head. Enough about them. Ruko finally spoke up from the background. I've been looking for you assholes. She rose her scissor blade in front of her. You killed my dad, right? You've got the other half. Satsuki looked at the blade in quick recognition but reined it in before it could be totally perceived. And what of it, Matoi? Say I did kill your father, what then? Then I'm gonna kick your ass, of course. In that state, it's most likely taking all you have just to raise that blade. Satsuki saw right through Ruko's bravado. Come down here and find out. Ruko challenged. You sure that's a good idea? Sanejama smirked. Indeed, Matoi. There is no point to your struggle. Simply come with us and no harm will befall you. As far as I'm aware, we have no reason to harm you, but it was a must to retrieve you alive, Satsuki offered. She isn't going anywhere with you. Naruto shouted angrily. He and Ichigo moved to stand up. Let's handle this civilly, Satsuki said. All we want is Matoi. We've no quarrel with the two of you. So, as a reward for your valiant efforts against my forces, I will spare the two of you and you will hand over Matoi Ruko immediately, Satsuki stated with authority. I'd take the deal, you two. Offers like this don't come around often for rookies in your position, Sanejama smugly said. Damn it, these guys are probably fed up with everything they've been through by now because of me. It would be smarter just to let me go, so they can get out of here unscathed. Ruko started to think as she shifted her gaze between the two in front of her. Screw you. Naruto interrupted the girl's thoughts. I don't care whether you plan on hurting Ruko or not. She's my friend. I'm not letting you take her anywhere, he said without any fear. Same. Ichigo rolled his shoulder. Lady, I'm sore, bleeding, and I had to play a stupid game of tennis because of this chick. He jabbed a thumb in Ruko's direction. There's no way she's getting off scot-free after all this trouble. So, I'll tell you what I told your little pals. As soon as I get an apology from her you can take her. Ichigo frowned seriously. You guys. Ruko was stunned. Above, Satsuki's brows furrowed, and her frown deepened. Sanejama noticed this and chuckled. Oh, you guys are in trouble now, he taunted. The Kuryuin co-commander took a step forward, her heel clicking against the hard surface of her ship, regarding the defiant rookies with a cold stare that showed her rising anger. You seem to be under the impression that what I said was a request when in reality, it was an ultimatum. She sneered. We didn't have to negotiate with you for the release of Matoi at all. We could have taken her at our leisure. She put her hand out palm up before closing it with force as if she was crushing something. I chose to be merciful and reward the effort you put in to defeat my soldiers by giving you the chance to sail on peacefully. Simply put, that is your only course of action. You are exhausted, injured, you would not be able to put up any opposition to our force if we attacked. She stood straight with her sword held parallel to the ground at her side. Against us, you are nothing, and you will recognize that. The three all listened to the girl's outburst. Ruko frowned at the over-the-top reaction. Ichigo kept his face hardened, and Naruto folded his arms. I will say this once more. There are two options before you. Hand over Matoi to us without resistance, and you will be allowed to sail away from here to continue your lives. Or you can choose to oppose us and we will take Matoi and your lives, ending your journey here and now. I will not be denied, you pigs in human clothing. Satsuki finished with a harsh stare at the two. Pigs in human clothing. Naruto scratched his head in confusion. What kind of kindergarten insult is that? Ichigo whispered. The two glanced at each other slowly. Ichigo brought his hand up to rub his neck and closed his eyes while Naruto frowned with his arms crossed. Well, I don't know about you, Captain. Ichigo stared and gave a side glance to Ruko behind them. But it seems like we don't have a choice. Ichigo looked back to Naruto. Yeah, even I can tell what we have to do. Naruto seemed to agree with Ichigo's thought. Ruko deflated at these words. Figures, at the end of the day no pirate would risk their life for someone they just met ... and frankly, that's for the best. Ruko looked to their bruised bodies. They've already done too much for me already. I can't let them get killed for me too. Are you sure about this, Ruko? There might be no coming back from this decision. Senketsu piped up in warning. What else can I do ... They can't win, so it's smarter to cut off the dead weight. If the Kuryuans want me, then I'll go with them and save these two. I can take care of myself. Ruko smirked sadly, looking at Naruto's back. Boom. Ruko's surrender was cut off because the two pirates had kicked off the ground towards the stairs, running side by side with what could be called crazed smirks on their faces. What are you doing? You can't fight them. Ruko shouted desperately, but it was drowned out. The only way is to go with option 3. Ichigo smiled with Senjutsu at his side, running up the steps with Naruto. Kick your asses and sail out of here. Naruto grinned. Pathetic, Satsuki said simply. Sanejama meanwhile was laughing. These guys are great. I'm beginning to like them. He laughed, but just as quickly he became deadly serious. But he suddenly appeared between Naruto and Ichigo in a burst of speed, the two registering him and turning to attack. Who gave you permission to climb Lady Satsuki's stairs? As Sanejama said this, he raised his hand behind his back to grab a handle, slowly drawing it to reveal a sword. Ichigo thought and swung Zenjutsu to meet the weapon before it could hit Naruto. Clang. Naruto, keep going, Ichigo told his captain. Right. The blonde didn't look back, trusting his nakama to handle himself. He continued up the stairs to Satsuki. Ichigo turned back and took notice of just what he had blocked, his eyes widening when he realized what it was. A shinai. Sanejama's weapon was indeed a shinai, a bamboo sword normally used in kendo. But that was definitely a clash of metal, Ichigo thought as he held his ground against Sanejama. Damn, I was hoping to get the two of you, the kendo practitioner sighed, seemingly blocking with little effort. What? I'm not enough for you? Ichigo shot at him. No, it's just that you two would have had a better chance at surviving. You won't last all that long the way you are. He then tilted his head up the stairs. And that kid ... he won't last 2 seconds against Satsuki-sama. Ichigo smiled and gave a light chuckle. Something funny. Yeah, you know one of the things I love most so far about being a pirate. Ichigo raised his head to look Sanejama in the eyes with a lopsided smirk, wiping smug smirks off idiots' faces. Well, let's see if you can manage to do that. Sanejama smirked back, raising his shinai to clash with Ichigo again. Naruto continued up the steps, his focus completely on Satsuki, who hadn't moved since his and Ichigo's attack started. Coming up on her swiftly, Naruto gathered wind onto his fist and jumped above her to come crashing down with the force of gravity added to his attack. Tenpasudo Panchai. Naruto roared, bringing his fist down on the girl and managed to hit something, and the ensuing explosion of force from the wind-encompassed attack obscured his vision. I may have to rescind my commendation. Beneath the swirling wind, Satsuki's voice came forth. The girl had been unscathed by the attack, for she had blocked it using the handle of her blade only. She didn't buckle or waver from the sheer force, and her arm didn't struggle against the blonde's strength. It was stock still. Nani? Naruto smartly replied, utterly surprised that the woman didn't so much as shake from one of his stronger attacks. He then fell forward when Satsuki moved her arm, causing him to fall forward as she maneuvered her handle to force him to where she wanted. If this is all you can muster in your injured state, I can't imagine either of you is much stronger in top form. Satsuki raised her sword over half her face to make a point. I don't even have to unsheath my blade to deal with you. When given this knowledge that seemed to show just outmatched he and his friend were compared to these two veterans from the Grand Line, Naruto didn't shake in fear, his eyes didn't widen, and he didn't sweat from caution. The blonde smirked at the girl, crouched on the ground to get back up, and sweat in anticipation of the fight ahead of him. Oh yeah, just watch me. I'll make you draw your sword, Naruto said confidently, standing tall against Satsuki. At this point, for the first time since meeting her, Satsuki rose a brow in slight confusion. Why would you actively strive to have me draw my blade against you? If I did that, I would only defeat you faster. Naruto chuckled and closed his eyes. I dunno, I just have this thing about me where when someone tells me that I can't do something. He opened his eyes, his smile turning feral, and determination shone in his blue orbs. I have to prove them wrong. Do you? Satsuki was skeptical, deciding there that she wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of doing so. Yep, he smiled normally again, and then he said, plus, I want to ask you something while I'm here. Naruto called the wind to his fists as he got ready to fight. And just what would that be? Satsuki asked, curious. Naruto gave a smirk before launching into action against the co-commander. Kuryuin Pirates, co-commander. Kuryuin Satsuki. Bounty, 400 million bully. Back with the two swordsmen, it appeared that Ichigo and Sanejama were evenly matched. They matched each other blow for blow, the ringing of their swords clashing being heard in the quiet marine base as they continued to battle on the white staircase. Though on closer inspection, one could see that Ichigo was putting more effort into fighting due to his existing injuries, while Sanejama seemed bored with it as he fought the orange-haired swordsman. Upon locking into another power struggle, Sanejama let out a tired yawn and scratched the back of his head to show how unconcerned he was with the fight he was currently engaged in. "Aw, sorry about that," Sanejama said sincerely, though it sounded sarcastic. "This is just so boring." He looked to the sky and sighed. "Looks like crushing you is just too easy when you're exhausted." Ichigo took umbrage with the passive way that the kendo swordsman wrote him off simply because he wasn't in his top form and may have been a tad sluggish. Ichigo pressed into their stalemate with a hard stare aimed at the greenhead. "I don't know what you're talking about, pal, 'cause from where I'm standing, we're dead even." Ichigo smiled harshly through grit teeth. Sanejama looked surprised at this. "Oh, you think so? Sorry, I like to make my fights last a bit longer than normal." He then smirked sinisterly. So I like to bring myself down to the opponent's level to enjoy it a bit more, Sanejama revealed to the shock of Ichigo. "TCH, nice bluff." Ichigo growled. "No, it's true, I promise. To be honest, this isn't even 5% of what I'm capable of." Sanejama's eyes narrowed evilly once he said this. "If you want some proof, how about I punch it up a bit?" With his piece said, Sanejama placed both of his hands onto the handle of his shinai, and his power suddenly seemed to increase exponentially, beginning to overwhelm Ichigo in their clash. The monkey was soon in the upper position looking down on Ichigo with his smirk still present on his face. Suddenly, Sanejama withdrew from their stalemate and reared his shinai to his side for a horizontal slash, and quickly struck. Ichigo saw the movement, moved Zenjutsu to block the attack just in time. The shockwave of the impact reverberated in the air, and made Ichigo buckle from the force. With his ears ringing and muscles still vibrating from the previous impact, Ichigo had to immediately block once more without reprieve, shaking his insides further. He wasn't just bluffing. Ichigo came to terms with this as the speed of Sanejama's attack began to increase in speed, force, and ferocity, and the orange-haired swordsman was losing ground with each successive strike. "This guy is the real deal." Ichigo began to sweat with exertion as he was barely keeping up with the monkey. Taking a chance, Ichigo went for a stab when he'd read an opening but was mistaken as his opponent raised his sword to have Zenjutsu skirt along his shinai, redirecting the large blade to Sanejama's side and leaving Ichigo open to attack. "Gotcha." The Kuryuin enforcer smiled and raised his wooden blade above his head, ready to strike down on Ichigo. Then, thwack, the bamboo blade was brought down on the top of Ichigo's head with such incredible force behind it that it caused him to be brought to his knees and black out for a split second, his eyes turning white from the shock. Blood flowed down his forehead and to his chin. Ichigo forced himself to remain up rather than fall forward, having to place his hand onto a step. Ichigo panted heavily after the attack, looking down as his blood drops stained the step below him, trying to pull himself together. His sword? There's something wrong with it. For bamboo to hit this hard. Ichigo's eyes were shaking from the amount of adrenaline pumping in his system, holding back the pain and exhaustion that this day had rained on him. "See, I told you I needed to hold back." Sanejama put his shinai on his shoulder and pocketed his other hand lazily. "One strike and you're already on your knees." "Bastard." Ichigo wobbled, bringing his head up in anger at the mockery and going to attack Sanejama with Senjutsu. Coat. The shinai struck Ichigo wrists and made him waver from the shock of pain in the sensitive and not often struck area. "You should just lie down for a minute." Sanejama taunted and rested his blade on Ichigo's shoulder to keep him in place, though with the glare that the monkey was being given, it didn't seem likely that the orange-haired swordsman would let that stop him. That is until, "Og!" A scream of pain was heard from up above that caught everyone's attention. Ruko looked worried and felt helpless. Ichigo's eyes shot open in worry when he looked up, and Sanejama simply turned his head nonchalantly and gave a side look to the top of the stairs. Above these three was Naruto, laying on his back at the top of the steps, beaten with Kuryuin Satsuki's heel digging into his throat to make it harder for him to breathe. "Now tell me." Satsuki looked down at the beaten blonde with a cold stare, not a single scuff or scrape on her person to show she had been harmed. Looking into the blue orbs of Naruto, she spoke. "Do you not regret your choice?" Despite his situation, Naruto continued to smile with blood trickling from his mouth. He coughed and answered, "Heh, I was taught to never regret my actions." His eyes were hard and unafraid as he was at her mercy. "We're pirates. Every day could be our last. So why should I waste them feeling sorry for each decision I make ... good or bad? I made them and I have to live with them." Naruto laughed hoarsely. "So, to answer you, no. I'm glad I was here and..." He looked directly into the cold dark blue of Satsuki's eyes. "I'm still happy to be one of them anytime." Naruto shouted cryptically, "This is pointless." Satsuki sighed and drew her blade, at last, a black sword, and laid its edge against Naruto's face. Below, his nakama grew panicked when he saw the position his captain was in. Naruto. Ichigo forgot his own pain and exhaustion when he realized what might happen to his friend, and, with a burst of speed, he ran past Sanejama intent on saving his captain. "Hey, now, you think it's wise to take your eyes off your opponent," Sanejama called ... from in front of Ichigo, having moved even faster than him. "Out of my way." Zenjutsu was being raised to attack the obstacle. Slice. Do. Sanejama brought his shinai down quicker. Blood spurted from Ichigo's chest, a confused look across his face as he didn't even register Sanejama move. Gasping with wide eyes, Ichigo was again brought to his knees, losing the rest of his strength, and made to watch helplessly as his captain was about to die. "Don't worry," Sanejama told him placatingly, moving to stand in front of Ichigo to block his view of Naruto's demise. "I'm not going to kill you in front of him and I won't let you live longer than him either." Sanejama's shinai was placed at Ichigo's heart. No crew member should have to see their captain die in front of them, and no captain should feel the pain of losing their crewmate. "We Kuryuans like to obliterate those that cross us ... It's merciful that way," Sanejama said seriously with an actual frown on his face, and a sad look. Naruto. Ichigo had his mind on his captain at the moment but couldn't move his body. "It's going to happen again," he thought, trying, begging for any movement his body could muster. "Any last words, before your journey ends?" Satsuki asked. "Yeah, I still win." Naruto gave his happy grin, still ignoring the severe predicament he was in as his eyes closed, and he laughed. "I got you to draw your sword." Blinking, Satsuki seemed to realize that the blonde was telling the truth as she glanced at her sword. Her face remained stoic, listening to the laugh that Naruto was letting out at winning that little challenge. HMPH. "Then take your little victory with you to hell," Satsuki conceded and rose her sword to deliver the final strike to the blonde rookie pirate captain. Simultaneously, Sanejama also brought his shinai above his head to strike Ichigo down at the same time his mistress ended the blonde's life. On the ground floor, Ruko looked on in fear, noticing the bad way that the two pirates that defended her were in. Wanting to run up there and save them, but knew with her injuries and number disadvantage she had that there was no way that she would last a second ... but she had to do something. "Those damn idiots." Ruko ground her teeth in anger, zeroing in on the colorful hair of the two pirates at the mercy of her targets. "I didn't ask them for this. They should have left me behind ... Now they're about to die because they wouldn't leave me." Ruko looked down and resolved herself here and now. Senketsu. Ruko raised her hand next to her face with her palm up. "You have enough left in the tank for one last trick?" Ruko asked her partner. "I do," the sentient clothing affirmed. He then moved his eye up to Ruko. "But are you sure about this? If I help them, it won't be long until I deactivate to prevent too much blood loss," he warned her. "You think I have time to care about myself right now?" she yelled to him quietly. Her angered eyes went back to the two that were about to be killed. "These idiots are throwing their lives away for me. They're going to die ... and I can't have that on my conscience," Ruko said with the utmost conviction in her next actions. Senketsu's eye turned up at the corners, his closest approximation to smirk. "Then you can count on me." Closing his eye to focus himself, Senketsu put his plan into action. Slithering from Ruko's sleeve, thin, almost imperceptible red fibers shot up the stairs and attached themselves to the collar of Ichigo's shirt, and stuck itself into Naruto's jacket as well, making sure to leave the Kuryuans none the wiser. "It is unfortunate that you could not see how outclassed you were, and now your journey must end before it could truly start." Satsuki spoke not only to Naruto but to Ichigo as well. "In the end, the two of you are just as I said, pigs in human clothing." With that, Satsuki swung her sword to kill Naruto, and Sanejama made to do the same to Ichigo. It was then that Senketsu opened his eye and called, "Seni Sudarando." The fibers pulled their charges away from danger, surprising them when they were suddenly yanked from their impending doom down the stairs toward the bounty hunter. "Come on, you idiots. We're getting the hell out of here," Ruko shouted with the hand that had the fibers coming from it behind her, prepared to run as soon as the two pirates made their way toward her. The hell? Ikugo wondered, ignoring the pain his body was in at being moved so quickly against his will. Huh? Great job, Ruko. Naruto looked down from his mid-air position and noticed Ikugo getting dangerously close. You've gotta be kidding me, Sanejama said in shock as seeing their escape method. Turns out that Ruko wasn't going to reel them in and flee. Instead, she turned and ran with them close enough to carry more easily, but they were more like kites floating behind her as she fled. And the two had knocked their skulls into each other from the rough treatment. They're running away. Sanejama gaped at the ridiculous idea. They were all in bad shape, especially those two rookies. How could they manage to escape like that? Satsuki didn't seem bothered with the situation. She looked down at the fibers that were carrying the two pirates and trailed her gaze to the outfit that Ruko had on, her eyes never giving away her thoughts. I see, that's why she needed to be retrieved. A Kamui ... and no mere knockoff either, the Kuryuin co-commander thought to herself, her mission's importance becoming all the clearer to her. She turned to her enforcer and called to him, Sanejama. Instantly, the monkey was on a knee in front of her awaiting her command. Do not let them get away. She sheathed her blade and turned her back on him, leaving no room for anything but success. Yes, milady, it will be done, he smirked as he turned back to stare down the steps at his target's backs. No more playing around. The stars on his jacket collar shone. Sanejama's uniform reacted to this, unleashing its power and transforming, much like Senketsu could. The threads of the outfit came undone to begin reforming around its wearer, leaving the monkey in the buff. The 3 stars appeared in front of him. Spreading his arms out, Sanejama passed through each one, and that was when his uniform finished its reconstruction. By the end, instead of a man standing on the steps, there was a hulking mech that had a dark green color scheme and vaguely resembled a suit of kendo armor. The helmet has a golden faceplate with slats for the eyes to see through, giant shoulders with the left shoulder showing the 3 stars. It had small feet that appeared to be like stilts with the thighs being much larger than them, and huge gauntlets with each finger having a hole at the tip. The odd piece of this uniform was the 2 huge canisters on its back. 3-star Goku uniform. Blade regalia. Sanejama shouted, I'm going to crush you for real now. With the 3 running, they were having their own problems. What kind of rescue is this? Ikugo shouted angrily, constantly bonking his head against his captains as they were freely floating behind the running girl. At least pull one of us in a little further. Sorry. Naruto's forehead stung from the impact. You think I've got time for that? Ruko yelled back without turning. We needed to get out of there, or you would have died, so I think some gratitude is in order. All I'm saying is that you should think about the ones you're saving a bit. Hey, guys. Naruto tried to get their attention. How about I make you run instead? If you do, you won't last a second when I kick your ass. Guys, what? Did you hear that? Hear what? Ikugo asked the blonde. It sounded like a transformation, Naruto said, looking to the sky. Not this again. Ikugo rolled his eyes. I'm serious. Thud. A thud from behind silenced any more talking. Moving his blue eyes toward the sound, Naruto's eyes bulged out in surprise when he saw Blade Regalia immediately upon them with an oversized shinai above its head to strike them. There's a giant mech chasing us. Naruto shouted in equal parts shock and appreciation for what he perceived as a giant robot. Stars once again shining in happiness at a young boy's dream. This chick transforming was a specific instance. Naruto, I don't think. Ikugo moved his eyes to regard his childish leader only for them to widen upon finally seeing it himself. Holy shit, a mech really is here. I told you, Naruto said indignantly. Turning up to their getaway runner, he called to her, Ruko, you gotta fight this mech. He's gaining on us. It ain't just a mech. I think that guy with the bamboo sword is inside it. Ikugo's eyes narrowed. I'm hurt here, too, you know. I can't fight right now. Ruko huffed, never breaking her run even when she saw the pursuing enemy. You have to, at least block. Ikugo shouted. It's coming, Naruto warned. Damn it. Ruko skidded on her heels, kicking up dirt, and using the momentum to swing herself around to meet the huge shinai and protect the 3 of them. She raised her scissor blade defensively, but she was far too fatigued and injured to put up much resistance. While she withstood a good amount of the damage, Ruko was sent careening through a building. Naruto and Ikugo forced to follow her as she burst onto the other side of it. Ruko struggled to raise herself from the ground. Her arms wobbled slightly, which made her look down at them in slight anger. Ruko, you can't take any more hits like that. Senketsu warned. You've only got a few minutes left before I'll be forced to deactivate ... And I don't think I need to tell you that our chances drop to 0 if that happens. Senketsu's eye narrowed. I know. Ruko got up at this point, her scissor in hand, and looked to the injured boys behind her. But what else can I do? Ruko growled under her breath. Sanejama then burst through the destroyed building with a cackle once he saw that his targets hadn't taken advantage of the lull in the action to run more. Giving up, Madoi. That's good. Blade Regalia's Shinai shadowed the three as it was poised to strike. Wouldn't want those two to suffer for you any more than they already have, would we? Run, Ruko. Naruto shouted from his down position. Huh? She smartly asked. Are you deaf? Move. There's no way we can take him. Ichigo concurred with his blonde friend. You won't leave this island. On my honor as Satsuki-sama's enforcer. Sanejama yelled proudly and brought his weapon down. The Shinai hit the ground, cracking it and making a crater at its point of impact but missed the three. I hope you've got a plan, cause I'm running on fumes here. Ruko shouted to the two pirates while running once more. You just focus on getting us out of here. Naruto shouted to her. What do you think I've been doing? Ruko smirked at the clueless pair. I ain't got a ship, so this whole time I've been running, I've been making my way to the civilian port, where your ship is, Ruko revealed to the pirates. That's really cool, Ruko. Didn't expect someone like you to have that level of forethought, Ichigo jabbed. You think I was gonna just run around this whole time? Ruko jabbed back. So, all we have to do is lose our pursuer. Ichigo moved his eyes back to the suit of armor that was still coming after them. Naruto, block him. Ichigo shouted to his captain. I can't move my body right now. Naruto struggled. Damn, Ichigo lifted Zangetsu slightly. I've probably got a couple more shots in me before I'm done. Ichigo charged his blade and released his crescent of energy, Getsuga Tensho. As the energy traveled toward their enemy, Sanejama didn't slow his stride. He instead continued, lifting his gauntlets to the canisters on his back. The monkey revealed why there were holes in the fingertips, for when he pulled his arms back there was Shinai protruding from them. With minimal effort, the hulking armor used the index fingers on each hand in the shape of an X and flicked the orange swordsman's attack away from his body and into another building. Is that all you've got left? The kendo user laughed mockingly. What's that thing made of? Ichigo sneered. It reminds me of Ruko's outfit. Naruto hummed. Yeah. Ruko looked back. I thought you were the only thing like this, Senketsu. The sentient clothing paused, his eye narrowing in thought and contemplation before he finally answered. So did I. Watch out, Naruto yelled when Blade Regalia was upon them. Seeing that Ichigo wouldn't be able to fire off another Getsuga in time and Ruko had to keep her attention on fleeing, Naruto took a deep breath and let out a condensed ball of air to slow the Shinai's recent descent upon them. The air bullet managed to block the Shinai's approach, deflecting the weapon to the side and making it slam into the ground next to the group. Rubble was kicked up by the missed blow, but it did little to deter the running trio as Ruko continued her way toward the port. This guy's defense and attack are off the charts. Ichigo frowned. We can't get a clean hit, Naruto reasoned, thinking on the same wavelength as Ichigo. You guys have got nothing left. Why not just forfeit the girl already? Sanejama shouted, having leaped above the three with the Shinai poised for a thrust. Ruko, above. With little choice left for her, Ruko stalled herself and turned sharply to avoid the most recent assault by the kendo using suit of armor. Sanejama landed his attack in her previous location and attempted to continue his pursuit, but due to the incredible size of Blade Regalia along with its small legs, turning wasn't something that it could do all that gracefully, especially in the enclosed streets of the island, meaning that he managed to trip through a building slightly before he could correct himself. Unfortunately for him, that little slip-up was noticed by a pair of blue eyes. Oi, Ichigo ... you see that? Naruto asked his partner. Hard to miss when he's chasing us. Ichigo answered back simply but knew that he and his captain were thinking of the same plan. Ryuko, Naruto called to the fleeing girl, ignoring the burst of debris as Sanejama reappeared behind them. Take as many turns as you can. Ruko glanced back at her charge, her eyebrow up when she'd heard what he suggested. What are you talking about? Ruko turned back around and pointed ahead of them. I dunno if you two realize this, but the fastest route between 2 points is a straight line. Turning is going to slow us down and make it take longer to get to the boat. Just trust us. You think we're trying to get killed? Ichigo yelled back to the stubborn bounty hunter. She saw the giant armor gaining on them once again and felt that she had little choice but to go with whatever harebrained scheme the two pirates had, making yet another turn down an adjacent street as quickly as she could. This move tripped up Sanejama, who planted his feet to slow down and make the turn easier on himself. As he motioned his body to turn down the street, Sanejama was forced to defend himself hastily from another Getsuga and was pushed back a fair bit because he was off balance. Unspent, Ichigo panted with his arms falling limply and a weak grip on Zangetsu. That's fine. Now we've got him. Naruto blew another wind bullet out of his mouth with an eye closed to assist in aiming as he used it to add force to Ichigo's attack to force Sanejama further back and buy them time. That's probably not going to work more than once. Ichigo narrowed his eyes, watching the kendo user disappear behind a corner as Ruko turned again to get back on their original path. That should be fine. I see the port up ahead. Ruko smiled in happiness. Her body was beginning to run out of energy and could feel the beginning of Senketsu deactivating to put less strain on her injured, exhausted body. Seeing their salvation up ahead let the girl relax her body slightly. They could actually make it out of this ordeal alive. I'm not letting you get away, Matoi. Sanejama yelled, rushing toward them. I never fail, Satsuki-sama. Damn it, he's a loyal monkey, isn't he? Ruko said under her breath, leaping high into the air to finally land in the greenhorn's boat and finally escape ... Shit, we don't have time to set off. Ruko looked back to Sanejama's quickly approaching form. All his shinais were in his fingertips and seemed to combine them into a large shinai. He was planning on capsizing the boat with it. You have to do something. Ichigo was to the side of the boat, unable to do much to help at this point. Once he'd finished his sentence, Senketsu shimmered and deactivated, at last, leaving Ruko huffing and puffing without his added support. She fell onto her behind as her adrenaline wore off and all her pain and fatigue washed upon her all at once, putting effort just to stand again. Can't. Ruko winced after getting this far. Guys, Naruto kept his focus on escaping and not the dismal reality they were facing, unable to move himself and lying face down on the floor of the boat. His lone eye showing as he turned his head to the side to look at the two, the determination in it never left. Flip me to the back of the boat. What? What are you going to do? Ruko shouted down to the blonde. You can't even move. Trust him and do what he said. Ichigo stopped the girl's protests, having already began moving to do as his captain ordered. TCH, Ruko helped the orange head move the limp blonde to the back of the boat, his hands dipping into the water with his head leaning off the edge. Thanks, Naruto told the two, getting ready to do whatever he was planning. This is the end. Sanejama finally made it, towering above them with the great shinai ready to strike them down. Its size blocked the sun for the three, with Ichigo and Ruko gritting their teeth at their perceived end. Hisatsu, Isshin Zenzenken. Time seemed to slow as the oversized bamboo sword bared down on the dinky tub that the three were in. Ruko shut her eyes, not wanting to watch this happen and thinking back to her father and how she wouldn't be able to avenge him when captured. Ichigo stared the danger down head on, a glare aimed at the weapon. But it was more directed at himself for not being able to do anything to stop what was about to happen. And Naruto ... he was still over the side of the boat, not paying any attention to the danger. Just as the bamboo blade was going to hit them all, a large gust of wind was kicked up, splashing water all around and obscuring the vision of both parties. Sanejama pulled his shinai back and covered the slits of his helmet from the water in his brief shock. Once he'd lowered his hands, the monkey saw the small craft sailing through the air ... and away from him at a breakneck speed. The hell did you do? Ruko shouted in surprise, hanging on for dear life to the front of the boat. Ichigo stayed silent while he also gripped the edge of the boat with his remaining strength, keeping his eye on the stationary Sanejama on the off chance the kendo pirate would still somehow find a way to chase them all the way out here. Pa, I couldn't move, so I used the air in my lungs for an emergency getaway. Naruto wheezed, plopping back into the boat and sliding down onto the floor. If we didn't have time to set out the right way, then I thought we'd have to do it the wrong way. Naruto smiled. How the hell are we gonna land? Ruko yelled. I'll leave that to you guys. Naruto shifted his eyes to the side shadily with some sweat on his temple. Figures. Ichigo sighed and joined the blonde on the floor of the boat when he was sure that they weren't being followed. Get your asses up and help me. Ruko's voice trailed off as they kept flying through the air. Back at the port, Sanejama had disengaged blade regalia, his eyebrows raised in disbelief and face dumbfounded as his targets ... flew ... they flew away from him ... when they could barely move. I don't believe this. Sanejama stomped childishly. They think they're getting away so easily. Piru. A ring was heard from the pirate's jacket pocket, making him stop his indignant tantrum and pull out a baby den mushi that resembled his mistress. Gacha, Satsuki-sama. I regret to inform you that Matoi has fled the island with those two rookies. Sanejama answered the call without hesitation, knowing that his leader would want an update. But if we bring the ship around we can tail them and have them cornered within. No, Sanejama. Satsuki silenced the enforcer with her simple command. Milady, let them go. Forgive me for asking, but why? It was our mission to bring Matoi in by ... your mother after all. Sanejama scratched his cheek. He would accept any command given by his lady. He was just curious why she would allow peons that they could crush so easily go. Because I know now why we were sent to fetch Madoy. Did you not see it for yourself? The woman paused, and when she hadn't gotten a reply she answered, Madoy is in possession of a kamui. Really? I thought that exhibitionist getup felt a little off. But how'd she get her hands on one of those? Sanejima rubbed his chin. It seems that Professor Madoy was more cunning than we'd given him credit for. It was hard to believe that the scissor blade he created was the only weapon he'd make to combat us. But that brain-dead girl had said she'd ransacked his laboratory top to bottom and found nothing. Clearly, she wasn't thorough enough, and her lost eye wasn't as severe a punishment she deserved for leaving the other blade and not finding the kamui. Satsuki's frown deepened, just imagining the stupid smile on a certain girl's face as she knocked her knuckles against her head and uttered an oopsie while sticking her tongue out. If that's the case, milady, should we really let her go? It's fine, I will take the blame for this. Satsuki closed her eyes. Besides the way that girl is, she can hardly be considered a threat to us. It is best that we make our way back to the Grand Line. We have injured that need tending to as well. She cast her eyes to the unconscious bodies of her subordinates and closed her eyes again. There's no doubt that this mission was a complete failure on our part. From her position at the top of the stairs, Satsuki was able to see the small dot of the trio's boat becoming smaller as it gained distance from the island. She imagined the blonde Naruto, she believed, laughing his head off at surviving the incident and making the Kuryuans seem like fools. Satsuki actually smirked. Satsuki-sama, Sanejima questioned. It's nothing. It's just that boy, the blonde. He said something so foolish when we fought. Satsuki thought back. Would you care to repeat that? Satsuki dodged and weaved around the haphazard and wild attacks of the blonde pirate. The most damage to her person was the stands of her that were cut off by the roaring wind coating Naruto's arms. His fists smashed into the floor hard with a resounding boom that was largely ignored. Satsuki's heels clacked against the floor as she backed up to add distance between the two, her bored expression still on her face as she swept her locks behind her ear. I wanna know. Naruto turned to her, taking his fist from the floor with blood on the knuckles because of the force he'd hit with. Why do you call us pigs? Very curious, aren't you? Satsuki chuckled condescendingly. It just doesn't make any sense. Naruto sped in front of her, ready to punch her across her face. Then I'll educate you. She avoided the blow and jabbed the end of her sheathed blade into the blonde's stomach, knocking the air out of him and sending him into a coughing fit. I called you such because that is what humanity is. Pigs that masquerade as higher beings. What? Naruto coughed out, confused. Think, humans mill about in their pen helpless, powerless, and aimless. They are animals that turn on each other and step over others if it means that they will get ahead or survive. That is why those like me must take charge. Satsuki swept her arms out to the town behind them, using it as an example. I am the farmer that gives these worthless creatures a purpose. I make the most use out of them, give them power and a goal, my goal, to work towards, and in exchange they serve me. Led to slaughter in the name of Kuryuan Satsuki, as is all pigs' ultimate purpose. Somehow the sun shone down directly onto the female pirate as if the words she was speaking were the divine truth. I am the farmer and they, my livestock. Naruto frowned, squinted his eyes, and began to vigorously scratch his head. He clutched his chin and tilted his head in serious thought with his arms crossed over his chest. After about a minute of this intense internal debate, Naruto opened his eyes and had his comeback. You're right. Satsuki smirked at the simple answer, happy that the blonde was agreeing with her. Perhaps you aren't as foolish as I previously thought. An index finger from the blonde gave her pause. But if you're a farmer then it must be really lonely, Naruto said in a calm voice, the wind blowing his jacket and Satsuki's hair. The girl's face tensed as her frown deepened somewhat from the blonde's words. I mean if you have to be in charge of all those pigs you don't have the time to relax. You're busy running everything, so you can't spend your time knowing them or be able to trust someone else to take charge for a bit you can't have friends. Satsuki was in stunned silence when she heard the blonde's reasoning, unable to come up with something to say. Not only that, you're constantly watching your back see there are other farmers out to make themselves the best, trying to end you or take what you've built, and you won't even have anyone that close enough to you to help you stay alert. Naruto looked directly into Satsuki's eyes with a somber understanding. That's what being a leader is. Satsuki countered the sentimental spin the blonde tried to put on her position. Maybe, but not the kind I want to be. If I had to choose between being a farmer or a pig. Naruto smiled cheekily. Then I'd pick pig every time. How ridiculous. Satsuki went on the attack, going for a horizontal slash on the blonde's midsection that he avoided by moving backward. I don't think so. He grunted in exertion with a smile. He then bent his knees to spring himself back into the fray and went for a punch. Satsuki easily read his trajectory and did a small sidestep to avoid the attack before raising her blade above his unprotected neck. She was ready to bring it down to knock him unconscious when he continued. Think about it. Naruto planted his hands below himself and twirled around to gain momentum with his legs. People might be stupid and at each other's throats all the time. Once he'd gained speed, Naruto sprung up and struck with the sole of his foot, kicking up a whirlwind that whipped around the pair. Senpujiri. Satsuki once again blocked the attack while insultingly staying still, and with minimal movement on her part, using her sword to hold back the blonde's foot. Looking down on him with unblinking eyes, Satsuki pushed him off her and made to go for an overhead attack. Naruto responded by catching the weapon between his hands with a clap. But at least they're all on the same level. A vein popped from Naruto's temple from the effort he had to put into holding the sword back. We step over each other to get ahead. But there are those that stand with the others. The ones that don't follow a farmer and wanna be free. That's what I want. A farmer will always take those that don't comply and force them to. A pig that won't stay with the herd and follow the farmer's plans will only be slaughtered all the faster. You either follow or die in this world. Satsuki growled. Then, I'd rather do what I want with my friends and die. Fool. Satsuki roared and withdrew her sword from their stalemate and kicked Naruto away from her and followed. She appeared above him and slammed her sheathed sword into Naruto's chest and sent him down onto the ground, making him skid on his back in pain as the attacks agitated his already injured body, and made him go still to catch his breath, which led to Satsuki placing her heel onto his neck. I imagine that he thought it sounded much more profound than it actually was when it came from his mouth. Satsuki placed her hand onto her face in an effort to seem annoyed or exasperated when she thought back on the conversation. But her smile didn't leave. It does sound like something that a kid would say. Sanejama smiled himself, keeping to himself that he could appreciate the ballsy blonde for speaking that way to his boss while it looked like he would be killed. Yes, it did. By this point, she couldn't see the silhouette of the trio's boat on the horizon. The Kuryuin heiress thought to herself for a few seconds before she made a decision. Sanejama, I want you to keep the specifics of what's happened here to yourself. There's no need to rile the others up with the actions that those two rookies took. All they need to know is that Manoe escaped for the moment. Of course, Satsuki-sama. And the girl turned around to go back into her ship and await her enforcer's return but paused her stride. I would like to receive each new edition of the paper from this day forward. Milady, you've never been too interested in what was going on in the world. Why start now? Though he had a good idea. I have a feeling that some interesting things are going to be coming to the ocean very soon and I feel that I should stay up to date with them. Are you opposed? Satsuki smiled. No, I think I'd want to keep an eye on the ocean too. Sanejima smirked himself. Bidding farewell to his leader, Sanejama cut the connection on the baby Den Mashi. Gotcha. After she placed the device away, Satsuki made her way back into her vessel. Her smile turned into a very smile upturn of her lips and her eyes became half-lidded as if her mind was wandering elsewhere. You may be right about farmers not being able to trust others and being lonely. But you failed to mention. Satsuki's eyes hardened suddenly as she glared. That there are those that stand above the farmers. Out at sea. Ha. Naruto laughed heartily, a hand on his stomach as he and his two friends sailed from the harrowing experience they'd survived. We almost died, he said simply. What's with you, ya bozo? Who goes and laughs after something like that? Ruko ground her teeth angrily at the nonchalant blonde. If you're able to walk away, that means you win. That's what my Gramps taught me. Naruto smiled. Your Gramps? Ruko wondered for a second but shook her head. You weren't able to walk away, asshole. I had to carry you. Naruto's right. Just calm down a little. Ichigo groaned at all the shouting. We're alive and that's all that matters after all of that. He rubbed his temple. You too, huh? Ruko looked at him. Where I came from it was survival first. So getting away from a battle you couldn't win to fight another day is a gift? Ichigo said with experience. You two are battle-hungry nuts. Ruko sighed. Yeah, but don't sell yourself short, Ruko, Naruto said to her. We wouldn't have even made it this far if you hadn't saved us, so thanks. Naruto said innocently. Ruko's eyes widened but couldn't get a word in as Naruto continued. But sorry, we were supposed to save you. And now you're stuck with pirates, huh? Naruto crossed his arms and closed his eyes with a sad sigh. That's my fault. Wait, Ruko tried. Don't worry. As soon as we get to the next island, we'll drop you off and leave. You're probably sick of us by now, so we won't stick around. How could he say that? After everything that they'd done for her. He was acting like they were the ones being a nuisance. They wouldn't even be in this situation if it wasn't for her capturing him. Well, you better get comfortable. Then, girl, Ichigo leaned on his side and rested his head on his hand. Who knows how long it'll be before we reach the next island. He then gave her a look over his shoulder, ... and don't think I forgot about that apology. Don't be like that, Ichigo. I have a feeling that we'll get to the next island real soon. Naruto said confidently. And just what are you basing that off of? Ichigo looked at the blonde with a deadpan gaze. A feeling. So, nothing, then, the swordsman muttered. Ruko just listened to the two of them, unable to accept their kindness, shaking in place before she grabbed Naruto by his collar. Seriously, she glared at him. Tell me the reason why you saved me ... No one. Especially a pirate that I fought and captured would be this nice. She looked down, so tell me the truth. You want me to owe you? Turn a blind eye to whatever you're planning next. It can't be just because you like me. She huffed. Naruto blinked. Why not? Huh? Why does there have to be a reason other than liking you? I don't get why everyone is so obsessed with reasons from a pirate. Naruto just scratched his head and looked to Ichigo, who was smirking with his eyes closed. I just wanted to, and I'm free to do it cause I'm a pirate. I can count on one hand the people I like in the world. So when I find one, I sure as hell ain't gonna let them die when I can do something about it. Naruto answered easily, stunning the girl. The answer you were looking for? Ichigo asked smugly without turning, imagining the face Ruko was making. Ruko, think back on all they've done. These two, despite their title as pirates ... are quite selfless, Senketsu told her. The girl's eyes were wide, letting go of the blonde and tightening her hands into fists with her eyes covered by her hair. Ruko huffed and turned her head away from the two to look out on the ocean and crossed her legs. The two of you are idiots, saving an enemy for something so stupid. She bit her lip and blushed a bit and whispered under her breath, Arigato. When she turned her head around, she saw the two pirates staring at her with different expressions, making her blush darken. Naruto had a big smile on his face and excited eyes, while Ichigo's were wide and surprised with a stunned frown on his face. Did she just? Ichigo looked to Naruto while pointing to the embarrassed girl. I know, right. She acts all mean but she can be nice. Naruto answered with a giddy look. Why does everyone act like that? You think I can't be polite? She raised her blade threateningly. It's just that with your tomboy look. Naruto gestured to her. Great, now I can't hold that apology over her head anymore. Ichigo groaned sadly and overdramatically. Damn straight you can't. Especially since I'm gonna be keeping you two alive. Ruko smirked. Huh? Ichigo asked smartly. How? Cause I'm gonna be navigating this tub. Ruko jabbed a thumb at herself. Well, you can navigate, Ruko. Naruto asked excitedly. I don't believe it, Ichigo said skeptically. Well, I guess you can say that I'm not technically navigating ... my ... clothes are. She said unsurely, expecting the crazy looks on their faces. Your clothes. Naruto tilted his head. That's awesome. They transform and they can navigate. Are they like super smart or something? Come on ... she can talk to clothes. Ichigo looked to his captain. Sounds like she was just lonely to me. But you told me that you can talk to your sword and no one else can hear it. The blonde turned to his friend, who blushed. That's different. I ate a devil fruit. Ichigo defended himself. How is it different? It just is. The point is, my dad made him and he has the South Blue mapped, so I know where everything is because he knows where everything is. She gestured to Senketsu. It has a gender too. Ichigo rolled his eyes. His name is Senketsu. Ruko ignored the orange head. Nice to meet ya. Naruto waved. He says likewise, Ruko translated. Why are we humoring this? I hope we can get a normal person on this crew. Ichigo sighed. You have some kind of problem, berry boy. Maybe you're just upset that we have someone strong and useful now. Ichigo stiffened at that nickname. What do you call me? Shooting up and into her face. Berry boy got a problem. Ruko got into his right back. At least I'm not an exhibitionist. I didn't make this getup, my dad did. What does that say about him then? Watch your mouth, berry boy. She added at the end cheekily. Cover yourself up before you get a cold. He prodded. I'll stab you. They both shouted at the same time. I'm glad everyone's getting along. Naruto laughed. Who's getting along? They turned at the same time angrily to the blonde. Now that we've got a navigator, I think it's time for a party. Naruto cheered, grabbing the food that Ichigo had procured. The swordsman grabbed it from the blonde instantly. Hold your horses. We can't go wasting this. Plus, there are 3 of us now, so we need to divvy this up correctly or it won't last too long. Ichigo held the ravenous blonde back with his foot. We can just buy more. We can't not have a party when we get a new member. With the money we have left, it'll be lucky if we can get a loaf of bread. Geez, you guys really are hopeless, aren't ya? Ruko smirked. It isn't that. He's just a monster, Ichigo explained. Naruto meanwhile had sharp teeth that were gnashing for the food. This isn't my job, Ichigo complained. Well then, as my first order of business with you idiots, I think we should work on getting someone to manage our food. Huh, she offered. It'd be nice. Ichigo made the mistake of looking away and it let Naruto grab the food. You mean a cook? Naruto spoke with a full mouth. Basically, she said, yeah, getting groceries is nice and all, but I want a hot meal. If we get a cook, then we can have home-cooked food, hot, fresh and delicious. And they have to be tough. Naruto listed the traits of his dream cook. Don't get your hopes up for that. What cook is going to have experience in fighting ... or want to leave a job that pays to join up with a gaggle of penniless pirates? Ichigo dumped cold harsh reality on them all. Heh, Ruko thumbed her nose, just shows how much you guys need me. See, right before that whole fiasco back there I was heading to a certain island after I made some cash for a boat that's going to solve a bunch of our problems. Maybe not all at once, but at least one. What island? Naruto got excited. One that's famous here in the south. It's supposed to be a food paradise and the price for it reflects. How's that going to solve our problem when we don't have money? Ichigo asked. Cause we can just catch the food ourselves and maybe get our hands on a cook that our captain here wants, Ruko elaborated. Catch? Naruto asked. Yeah, the animals there are supposed to be as dangerous as they are delicious among other delicacies you won't find anywhere else. And with game like that you better believe that the cooks have to be tough. Ruko grinned. Oh, this place sounds amazing. We have to go there. Naruto pumped his fists. And just what island is this? Ichigo rose a brow at their new navigator. Gourmet Island, Ruko said simply, moving to help direct the ship in the proper direction. Self-explanatory, isn't it? On a certain island. On an island that seemed entirely covered in dense jungle, though there were many screeches and roars heard coming from within to show that it was not empty. A lone booth was on the sandy shore of the beach. There was an arch with a sign that read "Welcome to Gourmet Island" with the word gourmet spelled in a way that each letter resembled food. Inside the booth, there was an elderly man with grayed hair in the style of a pompadour and heavy wrinkles littered across his face. The man had an easygoing grin present on his face with his eyes appearing closed, but he was just squinting. He wore simple clothing, a ragged yellow sleeveless shirt with patches sewn on and red shorts with cheap sandals giving him the appearance of a bum. Retrieving a flask from underneath the desk of the booth, the man took a swig from it and sighed to himself. Behind him, in the jungle, a large quake shuddered the island but did not seem to bother the old man as he chuckled. Hey, I think that it's about time for that boy of yours to go on the hunt. Ikai, the old man said wistfully and smiled, taking another drink from his flask. The triad of rookie pirates were sailing peacefully on the calm seas after their harrowing ordeal against the terrifying might of the Kuryuan pirates, using the time on the boat to rest and recover from the wounds that they'd incurred from the battle that they'd just narrowly survived. Their current destination, Gourmet Island, an island that, according to their newly recruited navigator, would be able to work around their lack of belief through its abundance of wild, yet delectable, beasts that could be captured and used to feed them for their journey. On the other side was their blonde captain that saw it as another potential adventure on a new island where they could recruit an essential member on any long voyage, a cook. His companions weren't so much focused on that and wanted to have an easygoing visit, grab what was needed and ask around for anyone willing to put up with them ... like that would happen. The poor fools seemed to forget who was leading them. It's nice to be able to tell where we're going and have a destination to look forward to. Naruto grinned as he took a cross-legged position at the front of the boat with his arms crossed, wanting to be the first one to see the island. Gotta say, it's better than floating aimlessly and praying that we find one. Ichigo smirked, his arms behind his head as he laid back on the boat's side. You guys would be dead if you hadn't found me. It's ridiculous to think that you even survived as long as you did. Ruko rubbed her forehead at their lack of forethought. I didn't have anyone that could teach me to navigate where I came from, so I relied on luck. That's what Gramps told me to do. Naruto looked back without losing his smile. I was already on the ship by the time I found out we had no idea where we were going. Couldn't be helped. Ichigo waved his hand lazily without a care. That's the problem, morons. What pirate sets out without a proper way of telling direction? A map, a navigator, a cook, or a proper ship? Ruko listed off, shooting to a standing position, and causing their small vessel to rock. With that, Naruto looked back and exuberantly jabbed a thumb at himself with an even wider smile, and Ichigo, at the same time, lifted his arm above his head to point his index finger down toward himself lazily with his eyes set in thin lines. Thus, they chorused together. You have devil fruit powers and we're surrounded by water. Ruko had a vein pulsing on the side of her head with a shadow edging across it. Remember that when you say something stupid again, she threatened. Enough about our lack of prep. How close are we to this food island? Nudist navigator Ichigo turned to regard her with an insult. GRR, it should be coming into view sometime soon. Ruko reined in her aggravation at the swordsman's jab. Tell us more about it, Ruko. Naruto turned around to look her in the eye. Well, Gourmet Island is famous here in the South Blue. Supposedly, it's a food paradise considered on par with the legendary All Blue, only this actually exists. Ruko began, resting her cheek on her hand as she explained. Because it has a bunch of animals. Seems kind of ridiculous to call it a food paradise if that's all it has to offer. Ichigo rolled his eyes, unimpressed. Heh, among other things, strawberry. The reason that it's coveted so much is that those species can't be found anywhere else. For some reason, all those monsters there are native to this one island, Ruko revealed. Whoa, so is it like some kind of magic island? Naruto's eyes shone. There's no such thing as magic. Ichigo sighed skeptically, causing his captain's cheeks to puff up. Sad to say that he's probably right, Ruko said simply. A sound of glass shattering went off in Naruto's naive mind as he stared silently ahead. There's been plenty of people that have theorized why Gourmet Island has such unique makeup that allows for them to have their odd ecosystem, but none have been outright proven. So they have animals that are one of a kind, and Ichigo waved his hand in a get-on-with-it motion. And so, they capitalized on it. With their unique circumstances, the island decided to make that their tourist trap. Special delicacies that you can't sample anywhere else will bring people from all over just to say that they were able to eat there, and once the popularity started growing. Ruko leads them to finish her sentence. So did the prices. Ichigo rose his brow. Exactly, royalty, nobles, anyone with money are the regulars on that island. Hell, some probably make the journey to eat there exclusively rather than have a personal chef. Ichigo rubbed his chin and thought, seems kind of dangerous for them to do that. Doesn't it? It would make the island a hotbed for pirates to kidnap or rob the dignitaries. Wouldn't it be better to have the meal sent? Ruko smirked and rose an index finger at that. That's what you'd think, but no. Gourmet Island doesn't export any of their food to other islands, keeps customers coming. After all, they can't get them anywhere else, Ruko revealed. I know some stories where they've been offered hundreds of millions to export or even hand over some of the animals for exotic pets, and have been turned down each time. That wouldn't stop pirates though. Ichigo understood but knew that situation would be a buffet for the criminals of the sea and would be idiotic to pass up. True. But the island has two defenses. One being the animals and harsh environment and one other. Another. You mean that the food is so amazing there that they don't let anyone else have any? Naruto woke up to interject. Look who's back, Ichigo sighed. Missing out on the important info. Oh well, they'd find out soon. Yeah, I guess, in an overly simplified way of looking at it. The tales I've overheard from those pompous asshats while bragging makes the food seem great. Steaks as big as your body, mouth-watering ribs that just slough off the bone, and it all practically melts in your mouth. Ruko remembered some of the stories she heard when a pattering sound was heard. Is it starting to rain? Ichigo looked up to the sky only to see clear blue. It was then that the swordsman began to feel an odd sensation on his back that was spreading. Glancing down, Ichigo saw that the wood of the boat was being wet despite the sunny day. Casting his gaze to the origin of it all, he saw Naruto drooling uncontrollably. You sicko, knock that shit off. Ruko stuck her tongue out in disgust and retracted her legs before the wetness could reach her, watching Ichigo jump up and avoid it as well. What is with you? Ichigo got mad. I can't believe we made it. Naruto started to tear up. What are you talking about? Ruko was confused. We have to be here if an island like this exists. The Grand Line. Naruto looked up to the sky with an odd light beam from somewhere shone upon him. Nowhere near it. Ichigo and Ruko crashed him down back to reality with twin knuckles to the skull. Sighing to herself after disciplining her childish captain, Ruko looked up to see something in the distance. Look alive, you two. We're about to arrive, Ruko announced. Great, I can't wait to try the food and get a cook. Naruto got back up from the floor with twin smoking welts on his head. Focus on getting food first, Ichigo said. He then cast his eyes to the island and saw the sheer number of large ships surrounding it, all of them elegant and extravagant. You weren't joking about those big shots frequenting this island, Ichigo groaned. Even I'm surprised there are this many. Think we'll get a ship like this? Naruto wondered aloud. With what money? Ichigo asked. We could steal one of these, Naruto said. That'd get us in more trouble than we're ready for. We just need to wait until we can grab somebody more safely and work our way up to a ship large enough to tackle the Grand Line. Ruko reasoned with the two. Okay, Naruto said, dejected with a depressing aura around him as he continued to admire the large ships. Shape up, Sencho, Ichigo told his leader as they made it to the pier that jutted from the island's shore that was quite large to accommodate the vast number of ships, with theirs being the odd one out as it was dwarfed by them all. It's good to stretch my legs, Ruko stretched, popping her joints after being cramped on the tiny dinghy for so long. We made it. Naruto hopped off and darted his head left and right, seeing the sign that welcomed all to the island of gourmet food. This place is supposed to be some kind of food capital. Looks like a bunch of untamed jungle to me. Ichigo stared into the dense expanse of trees ahead of them with his brow raised. The animals have to live somewhere to be hunted, Ruko pointed out. What's with that line? Naruto asked, bringing their attention to the shrinking line of well-dressed people standing at a booth before leaving with tickets into the forest. Nobles, wonder what they're getting up to over there. Ichigo looked to the booth and saw an old man helming it with a grin on his face and a sign being displayed in it that denoted what the booth was selling. Bishokuya guides. Yeah, but we don't need to worry about it. We won't be needing them, Ruko said before. Hello, I'd like a guide, please. Naruto went ahead without warning. Hold it. Ruko headlocked the blonde, stopping him in his tracks. I said we don't need one. But we're on a new island of food. A guide would be really useful to have. Naruto tried to inch himself closer to the booth. We don't even have any money for one anyway, you goof. Ruko squeezed harder. Even if we had money, it doesn't seem like we'd be able to afford it. Ichigo read the booth's menu board to see the prices of these Bishokuya. Amateur, 1 million berries. Professional, 2 million berries. Hunter, 4 million berries. Whoa, they must be tough then, Naruto croaked since Ruko hadn't let up on her grip. That's why we need Og. We don't. We can take care of ourselves, Ruko shouted in his ear. Oh young whippersnappers, eh? The old man hiccuped from within the booth. Drunk on the job, old man? Ichigo asked rhetorically. When alls I have to do is stand and take money, I have to do something to occupy my time. Ha ha ha, the old man laughed. He then leaned forward to get a better look at the three. You don't seem like nobles, especially that little spitfire there. He laughed seeing Ruko wrestling with Naruto on the sand. Nope, we're pirates, Naruto answered instantly and was launched by his crewmates. Stop answering with that, they scolded. I figured as much, the old man stroked his beard. The only types we get here are the rich and pirates, and with your attitudes, it isn't all that hard to figure that out. He took another swig of his drink. Aw, so you kids looking for a guide? No, the two answered before Naruto could. No thank you, sir. We'll be fine on our own, Ruko said politely. Oh, brave rookies, then. I haven't seen your kind come through here in a while, the man chuckled good-naturedly. In that case, I won't stop you, he pointed behind him. If you're looking for good eats, then head for the center of the island. The best restaurant around is there if you can make it. What's that supposed to mean? You threatening us, old man? Ichigo scowled at the underlying message. Ha ha, no need for me to do that, son. If you're looking for trouble, then I think that this island might just surprise ya. Though you don't seem the sort to do that to me, so I've got no problem with you. The man waved off Ichigo's accusation without care. Frankly, you kids are lucky you came through on this side and not the other, especially with what'll be happening soon. What's going on the other side of the island? Naruto asked. Whatever it is, it doesn't concern us, Naruto. Thank you for the directions, sir. We'll be taking our chances. Ruko bowed and dragged her blonde captain behind her with Ichigo in tow. Good luck, the old man said with a wave they couldn't see. They seem like the right type to me. With the trio, they had entered the rapidly darkening forest without hesitation and unafraid of whatever dangers could be found inside. If someone were to see these three, they would either consider them very brave or more likely very ignorant. I don't see why we couldn't get a guide, Naruto quietly complained once he'd been let go by his navigator, pouting with his arms behind his head. Other than being flat broke, it's because we don't need one. Ruko scowled at her childish captain, watching as he plugged his ears to ignore her. Deciding to turn her gaze onto her other companion, Ruko addressed the orange-haired swordsman. And you, do you have to pick a fight with everyone? We can't get chased off this island because you're so standoffish and picking fights with people. Ichigo looked back in the direction of the booth. That old man was hiding how strong he was. Poking fun at us with his innocent act was getting on my nerves already. Then he goes and says we can't handle some dumb jungle. He sounded annoyed when he thought of the old man's grinning face. Are you joking? Ruko looked to Ichigo with disbelief, thinking it was in his bad boy nature to be rude to just about everyone he didn't know. Nah, I felt it too, Naruto chimed in with a nonchalant whistle. That old man is way tougher than he's letting on. I wonder if we'd be able to beat him if he went all out. Naruto smiled at the idea. What are you two talking about? Ruko was confused. This is what happens when you fight people so far below your level. Ichigo spoke derisively with a superior smirk aimed at the miffed Ruko. The hell do you mean by that? I think Ichigo means that, as a bounty hunter, you went around taking out a bunch of pirates without ever being pushed against a wall until we came along. Being able to tell how strong people are comes from experiencing that over and over, Naruto said simply, showing his battle sense. Ruko's eyes widened slightly, wondering just what her crewmates have done before meeting her that they could tell this much from a single encounter with someone. Are all of those Bishokuya guys as strong as that old man? And just as quickly, the serious conversation was ended by the blonde's happy grin. What is a Bishokuya anyway? Ichigo looked to her, shaking her head and resetting to the new atmosphere. Ruko went on to explain, a Bishokuya or gourmet hunter is exactly what the title would indicate. They hunt food for cooks. The cooks don't go get the food themselves. Naruto questioned. Remember that we're standing on an island of delicious and vicious animals that can rip a normal person apart. Not to mention that plenty other non-living ingredients are only found in harsh environments or around the dens of those monsters, Ruko elaborated. So, they're necessary to get all this stuff for the cooks, that way they can make the food, Ichigo reasoned. Then that means they're crazy strong. We should get one to join our crew and be our cook. Naruto was in his own little world. Unlikely, Bishokuya are hunters, they don't typically cook the things they catch. I think I've heard that it is normal for some to team up with specific chefs to form a team to hunt and cook, Ruko explained. But they are strong. Ichigo raised a brow. You have to be to hunt the things on this island. Ruko looked back to him. Remember what I said on the boat? That there are 2 reasons why rookies steer clear of this island. The two looked to her. The Bishokuya are the second reason. Well, really, we have to get one on the crew then. Naruto was getting even more excited. The animals and the hunters are forces to reckon with for the average pirate, and because of that this island and another here in the south are called rookie barriers by the Marines. The ones unfortunate enough to visit either, no matter what potential they might have to be powerful pirate crews, are demolished by these islands. Naruto's smile threatened to split his face. I think you just set our next destination with that. Ichigo's sweat dropped. We don't have a reason to go there, though. Ruko frowned at his smile. You think that matters to him? Ichigo snapped his fingers to bring his captain back to earth. Listen, the only reason we're here is to hunt, Naruto. We don't want to run around aimlessly like tourists. I'd be happy to catch one animal from stories. It should hold us over for a month ... if we eat normally. Ruko added at the end, attempting to rein in his thirst for adventure. Maybe she shouldn't have told him about the Bishokuya being a deterrent. But I want to explore. Hunt and leave. Why don't we explore a bit? Ichigo said. I want to see how tough the animals are here if they can chase pirates away. At this point, a rumbling noise was heard in the forest and it was approaching the 3 pirates, though they didn't pay it any mind as they continued their talk. Now you care. You were with me before? Ruko raised a brow. Well, with everything you said, I want to see how they stack up to some other monsters I've seen. Ichigo smiled predatorily. I want to see them too. I wonder what they look like. Naruto imagined how huge they'd be or how many fangs they'd have. As long as we catch something huge. I could care less how many you want to fight. Ruko resigned herself. It was then that the rumbling had finally reached the pirates. Stopping directly in front of the 3 of them were 3 beasts. The monsters were locked in a battle of supremacy where the victor would devour the other to insatiate its hunger for another day. One of them flew above the other 2, diving in to use its talons and rake them against the other 2 creatures. It was a large bird of 12 meters with yellow feathers, with the top of its wings having red feathers lining them, a large beak, 4 eyes, and odd spikes protruding from its neck. And to top off the peculiar look, the bird went on to discharge a powerful bolt of electricity to stave off its opponents. On the ground, the only octopedal creature of the 3 was what could only be called an oversized alligator ... or perhaps crocodile. It was large like its opponents, but it would be foolish to think that it was slow, as it was able to sink its rows of teeth into its adversaries. Red scales lined its body with 2 rows of yellow spikes trailing down its back and small green eyes. The final monster that was beating one of its fists into the biting gator dial was a large gorilla. This creature was pure overwhelming muscle with teal-colored fur and pale pink skin, red eyes bathed in the shadows of its brow. And most peculiarly, it had 4 arms with the second pair mounted on the back of its shoulders, which allowed it to handle its 2 enemies more easily than if it had 2. Speak of the devil, Ruko blinked uninterested in the large fight taking place in front of her. Looks like they're having a spat. Should we go around? Ichigo asked, scratching his head equally uncaring. Look, the monkey's got 4 arms. That's so cool. Naruto laughed with his trademark nonchalance. Hearing the voices of the humans, the intimidating creatures halted their battle and turned to regard them with fearsome roars, spittle flying from their maws that thankfully missed the 3 pirates. Oh, they noticed us. Ruko tilted her head in surprise. They'd sacrifice a bigger meal just to come after us. I thought they'd be smarter. Ichigo smirked evilly. What ... they wanna fight. That's fine, but the monkey's mine. Naruto cracked his knuckles with a fun-loving gleam in his eyes. The monsters faltered for only the briefest of moments at their prey's flippant attitude to their monstrous forms before they each attacked one of them, causing dust to be thrown up from the dirt. The first to emerge from the cloud was the only female as she jumped back to avoid the talons of her opponent. Following her was the screech of the yellow bird as it rose above the cloud. Noticing the girl, the giant bird dove at her with the sun glinting off its natural weapons and aimed to maul her. You're messing with the wrong person, Polly. Ruko grinned and brought out her scissor blade. Once the oversized avian reached her, she deflected its clawing attempt with her weapon and watched it rise back into the air to gain distance. Hey, Senketsu, Ruko spoke to her partner, keeping her eyes on the circling bird. What? Don't tell me that you think you need my help against this, do you? Senketsu jabbed lightly with an optic of his eye, revealing that he was joking. Heh, no, but it's good to hear you agree, Ruko said in confidence. Across from her, Ichigo backpedaled from the dust cloud, his hand in his pockets as he avoided the large reptile's chomps. Without effort, he avoided the monster's attempts to eat him, and all without drawing Zenjutsu for defense, and a bored look on his face. Gotta say that I'm unimpressed so far. Croc. Ichigo sighed in boredom and dodged another attack. From all that I've heard, I was expecting something much scarier. His back hit a tree. Believing the swordsman trapped, the creature pounced on the opportunity, and with a mighty chomp bit at Ichigo's position along with the tree behind him, causing it to be felled. It chewed on the wooden debris for a few seconds but didn't taste the meat of the human. I hope you're going to show me something interesting soon. Croc. On the back of the reptile, Ichigo appeared still bored and looking down at the beast. I'm going to start attacking soon, and if you don't step up ... you're going to die. Ichigo didn't threaten. He promised the monster that it wouldn't live past the day his bored look turning dangerous. The gator dial became intimidated by the aura it felt emanating from the swordsman, but its anger overrode its fear of the small human. It poised its tail above Ichigo, planning to crush him, and brought it down with force. TCH, I'm getting embarrassed for overestimating you, Ichigo grumbled, now on the ground in front of the reptile. A resounding boom came from the impact of the tail hitting its owner, dazing it. These things scare off pirates. Ichigo rolled his eyes. Ha ha ha, this way, this way. Naruto fought above his crewmates, hopping from branch to branch as his opponent chased after him, annoyed. The blonde was having the time of his life playing with the large ape as it continuously missed him with its fists. Having 4 arms must make you really fast up here. Naruto spoke as he jumped again, watching the monster gain on him. Just as he was about to land on the next branch, he saw the 4-armed gorilla smile at him. Wondering what it was about, he was answered when his foot never landed on a solid surface. Looking down, Naruto saw that there was no branch where there used to be one, and when he looked at the ape, he saw it grinning maliciously as it brought a broken branch from behind its back. Huh? Naruto smartly said, but didn't lose his smile. The ape seized this chance and jumped above the blonde pirate and smacked him down to the ground, following him soon after to press the attack. Wow, you're pretty smart too. Caught me by surprise, Naruto dusted himself off, unscathed by the impact. The ape growled in anger and brought all its fists down upon the blonde with a heavy thud. Only, there was no splatter, no blood, or even a cry of pain from the blonde. Casting its gaze down, the ape was shocked to see the teen have both his arms up and had caught its giant arms ... all 4. Hell, but it doesn't matter. Naruto laughed and smacked the appendages away from him. I'm not losing to some monkey. A trail of snot fell from the nostril of the dumbfounded and scared animal. Back with Ruko, the hit-and-run tactics of the bird were beginning to get on her nerves. Damn, I wish I could fly. Then that oversized hummingbird wouldn't feel so cocky. Ruko scowled, her hands starting to feel numb from the electric discharge the bird was giving off. I've got him this time. I'm used to his speed. Ruko smirked and ran when she saw it begin to swoop back down at her. Keeping the bird on her tail, Ruko led it through the jungle, and once it had gotten low enough, that was when she kicked off a tree in front of her into the face of the beast. While widening its eyes, the creature was unable to stop its descent at this point and therefore began to let out its electric defense in hopes to deter the girl. Like I care about a little static. Seems like you're the chicken of the two of us. Ruko ignored the numbing pain of the shock and brought her blade down, quickly cutting faster than the beast could notice. Seni Sashitsu. The bird's feathers all came undone from its body, leaving it fleshy and naked. Its shock was short-lived as it only had time to let out a startled squawk from its beak before Ryuko appeared behind it and knocked it unconscious with the back of her scissor blade. I'll leave you for now. I should ask the others if they'd want to eat you. Ryuko landed on the downed beast, letting her guard down when she felt a prick in her shoulder. Huh? She looked into the jungle but saw nothing there. The hell was that? A muscle spasm. She inspected her shoulder but saw nothing was there. Meanwhile, Ichigo had finally lost patience with his opponent and drew Zangetsu, raising his head and looking from the bottoms of his eyes with a deadly glare at the reptile. Time's up. Croc ... You had your chance, Ichigo said, only loud enough for the giant animal to only just hear what he'd said. He then flared his power, frightening it, but out of its desperate situation, the gator dial kept charging. Ichigo stood still as the maw of the creature came down on him and he was engulfed by it. Tasting the human, the gator began to grin to itself, believing that it had won the fight. Ching! The gator's head was separated from the rest of its body by a slash from Ichigo, who was completely clean from any of the blood that could have fallen on him due to how clean his slice was. Landing on the ground, Ichigo looked to the dead beast and put his sword away. I warned you what happened if you didn't try harder ... HM. Ichigo felt something prick him in his arm but knew that the reptile hadn't touched him at all during their scuffle. He narrowed his eyes and cast them into the dark, not noticing the slithering shadow. Sorry about this. Naruto jumped at the scared ape with his arms behind his back and raging currents of wind snaking across his arms. Bringing his arms forward, Naruto punched the ape in its stomach with his brute strength, and then the powerful gusts followed with nowhere to go but forward, doubling the impact of Naruto's punch and causing a dent to appear from the force in the ape's chest. Hokays. Huh? Naruto watched the ape fly backward from his attack but had a distinct feeling something hit his arm, but because of his attention on the ape, he couldn't tell if it was in his head or not. The ape crashed through several trees and landed back in the clearing that they'd began in, making the two other pirates turn to see it fall before them. Yeah, now I'm the king of the jungle, Naruto cheered, pumping his arms into the air. Gorillas aren't kings of the jungle. You're thinking of lions, Ichigo pointed out to his captain. You're both wrong. Tigers are kings of the jungle, Ryuko corrected. But that monkey was the biggest and toughest. Naruto tilted his head confused. PSHT. If anything, that Croc was more dangerous ... and it still didn't help it win. Ichigo slightly boasted, pointing his thumb in the deceased animal's direction. It doesn't matter which was tougher. Ryuko huffed and looked to the side, especially because the bird was way more dangerous than an ape and some alligator. She whispered under her breath. You have something to say. Ichigo scowled. Just that something that discharges electricity is more dangerous than something that doesn't, she rebutted. TCH. Either way, these things weren't worth it. Ichigo decided not to rise to the navigator's provocation and instead nudged the severed head of the large reptile with his foot. The pirates that come through here must be pretty pathetic if these guys can chase them off. Most rookies are. Normal, Ryuko deadpanned, watching as Ichigo continued to disrespect the deceased animal, and Naruto was lifting the gorilla's limp hand above his head to get a look at its face. Shaking her head, Ryuko got them back on track. At the end of the day, their strength doesn't matter, we just need the meat. Aw, don't be too hard on them, they tried their best. It isn't their fault, they didn't know how tough we were. Kinda reminds me of the animals in this other forest I know, Naruto defended the beasts. His crewmates gave him a questioning look, wondering where he meant. PSHT, let's just hope those Bishoku are tougher, Ichigo brushed it off. We shouldn't be dealing with them. Just the girl stopped when she suddenly lost all feeling and fell forward into the dirt. Ryuko, Naruto called. Hey, quit messin'. Ichigo soon joined her on the jungle floor, unable to move. Guys, what's wrong? Naruto moved to check on them only to fall as well. Ryuko, Senketsu called to his partner. Shenkesh, what's going on? Ryuko spoke from her down position, her cheek pressed into the dirt. Remember that prick you felt? The sentient uniform put forward. I felt it as well and decided to check your vitals ... and I found a neurotoxin in your blood ... It's paralyzed you all. Shit, guys, Ryuko yelled to her friends. Senketsu says we got hit by some neurotoxin. How the hell did happen? Ichigo shouted back. Something must have hit us without coming out from the jungle. You mean like a giant purple snake with a silver mane and 3 eyes? Naruto asked. That's oddly specific. Ichigo sweat. Where'd you get that idea? Ryuko asked uneasily. Cause I'm looking at him right now ... and he sure seems hungry, Naruto said calmly, despite looking at a creature that was most likely going to kill him and his crew. Naruto being the only one facing the large snake-like creature, as his crewmates had fallen in the opposite direction. He stared it down with occasional clueless blinks. The beast had a maw of blood-red fangs wide open and drooling as it stalked towards its prey. A long body that gave it the appearance of a snake, but it had 4 legs with claws that matched its fangs, and 3 bloodshot eyes perched on stalks with a flowing mane of silver hair. "Well, do something," Ichigo told his captain. "Can't move, remember," Naruto answered simply, watching the predator come closer as if gauging whether the trio was truly out of commission. "Fire a wind bullet or something," Ruko shouted, not liking that she couldn't even see this large predator coming after them. "I can't. I won't be able to aim since I can't move, and if I just fired one it would mostly hit the ground and blast me away without you guys," Naruto answered, his cheek pressed into the ground like his companions and therefore unable to do much. "Senketsu, how long until I can move?" Ruko asked desperately, beginning to hear the slithering of the serpent. "We've never encountered a toxin like this. I'm still breaking it down ... and at most I'm thinking it will take another 2 minutes. I don't think we'll have that long. I can't go out like this." Ichigo grit his teeth with his eye looking into his periphery to try and get a glimpse of the monster. The beast approached the 3, intending to swallow them all whole. Its saliva fell all around them as its gaping maw drew closer. The 3 rookies shut their eyes in preparation for what looked like their end when "Poison Rayleigh," a voice shouted from the jungle, preceding 3 purple globs that came from the treetops and hit the serpent atop its mouth. What was that? Ichigo wondered until a figure landed in front of him and Ruko. The man wore an outfit reminiscent of a ninja as it was an all-black, full-body suit with green bands on his wrists, biceps, calves, and his neck with a turban of the same color on his head. He had black hair which they were able to tell from the sideburns that framed his face and black eyes that regarded them with a calm expression as he approached. "Who are you?" Ruko asked bluntly. "Don't worry, I'm here to help you." The mysterious man walked over, and his hand was coated again in the purple substance. "Help us?" Ichigo asked skeptically. "Yes, lucky for you I've got the antibodies to this. It's been a while since I've had to use them." The man smiled softly, ignoring the beast that seemed to become confused after his attack. "What's going on? Who's there?" Naruto asked, doing his best to squirm as he became curious about the new voice. "Thanks for the help and all, but don't you think you should take care of that thing first?" Ruko asked, wincing when the man struck her with his finger to administer the antibodies. Don't worry. I have someone taking care of that." His smile remained as he moved over to Ichigo. The thrashing animal was blinded as its pit organs had been covered by the globules that the stranger had shot at it. Unable to discern where its prey was or its surroundings in general, it decided to rage in the hope that it would strike one of them. Unfortunately for it, there was another surprise to come. Another voice came, only this time the body came with it as a man landed atop the serpent with a powerful punch that caused the monster to be driven into the ground and bounce back up. The newcomer wore a white sleeveless muscle shirt that showed off his large and powerful arms and simple orange shorts. He has wild and wavy blue hair that reached his neck, 3 scars beneath his left eye that stopped under his left ear, and a wide, excited grin on his face as he stared down the serpent. A devil serpent. Haven't seen one of you in a while." The man cracked his knuckles. "I hope you don't go down as easily as the rest." He grinned and rushed the beast, who had just managed to reorient itself and regain some sense. The large snake-like beast shot one of its clawed hands out to attack the man, but he was ready with a claw of his own. The man put his left hand into the form of a claw with his thumb laying over his palm before bringing it to clash with his opponent's. "Foku," the man called as his attack deflected the monster's claw from his person with an audible clang somehow. Keeping up his attack, the newcomer made a chopping motion with his right and called his next attack, Neifu, and cut cleanly through his opponent's other arm that had tried to flank him. The beast roared in pain and anger at its lost arm, and that cost it precious time as the man took the opportunity to get in close to the creature with his fist cocked back and veins bulging across his arm. And thinking 5 will do, he grinned and brought his fist forward, punching the beast with great force, and if one were to look closely, they would have seen 5 punches hit in rapid succession. "Go Ren Kyugi Panchai," he shouted, and when he was done the effect of his attack was shown off. First, the beast buckled behind the initial hit. Second, a shockwave of greater magnitude rocked the serpent, pushing it further back and making a second dent in its body. Third, yet another dent was made, and at this point, the monster began to lift off the ground. Fourth, another dent, and the beast had been knocked unconscious. And finally, the last dent was embedded in the creature as it rocketed away from the assorted humans back into the dense jungle it came from. "Phew, easy." The man shook his hand to ease it and turned to regard everyone else. "How are they doing, Koko?" "They should be moving again in a few minutes," the now named Koko answered. "Awesome." Naruto shot up instantly along with his friends, though they were more reserved than their starry-eyed captain. Looks like we've got some fighters here. The blue-haired man laughed heartily at the pirate's quick recovery. Thanks for the assist. Who are you guys anyway? Ichigo rolled his shoulders to get feeling back to his body as he addressed their saviors. Name's Toriko and that's Koko. He motioned to himself and his compatriot with a thumb. And Naruto and Naruto started but was smacked by his friends for outing them once again. It's fine. It isn't hard to figure out your occupation and the island doesn't turn pirates away as long as you don't cause trouble. Koko placated the raging duo before they could harm their captain anymore. Really? Ruko ground her heel into the poor blonde's head for good measure. Yeah, after all, pirates have to eat too. And if old man Gyro let you in, you can't be all bad. Toriko grinned good-naturedly. You mean the old man at the entrance? Naruto rubbed his head. Yep, he'd have stomped you all if he figured you were trouble. Though I have to say you might be trouble of a different sort when it comes to the animals. Toriko walked over to the beasts that the trio had felled. For rookies it is impressive. Koko examined them as well. A lightning phoenix, a troll kong, and a galilagator. A pretty impressive set you've got here. It was nothing. Ruko blushed at the praise and rubbed the back of her head with her blonde leader scratching his cheek and his eyes set in upside down U shapes in happiness. Gator ... not croc. Ichigo stared at the animal he'd defeated. His eyes set in thin lines at getting the species wrong and decided to keep that to himself lest he gets embarrassed. You guys here to hunt? Toriko asked. Oh yeah. We have a black hole on our crew, so our navigator said we should head this way to restock. Ichigo answered for his still blushing crew. From this place's reputation, I was expecting more from the animals. Then you're planning on eating the gator? Toriko asked. I dunno, maybe. We hadn't decided what we were looking for or anything, they just attacked us. I taught it a lesson. Ichigo shrugged. Hey, Toriko lifted the reptile above his head. His easygoing disposition turned serious as he looked at Ichigo. If you're going to kill him, the least you can do is respect him and eat him. Huh? Ichigo rose a brow a bit insulted at the sudden hostility. Naruto and Ruko were listening in as well while Koko had a knowing look on his face. And saying, you shouldn't kill something that you don't plan on eating. That's what I live by, Toriko said with all seriousness, looking over his shoulder to the pirates. And just as quickly he was back to his cheery disposition. With all that said and done, since you caught this guy, we'll go ahead and cook it up for you, Toriko offered. On cook. Let's go. Naruto scooped the head of the gator up into his arms and started to stride next to Toriko excitedly. So does this thing taste good? Naruto asked him. Heh, galilagator is a delicacy, you've gotta try it for yourself. Nothing I say will be able to describe the taste, the aroma, the mouthfeel of chewing the meat, Toriko described with his eyes closed. Again, a pattering sound was heard. A river. Koko saw a stream where there wasn't one previously. Ichigo and Ruko both avoided the liquid, having a good idea what it was. Aw, we have to be in the Grand Line with food like this. Naruto drooled. Knock that off. Ichigo smacked him. Still in the south blue. Ruko chimed in as well as her knuckles rapped against the blonde's skull, making his eyes bulge out. The two outsiders to the trio laughed and chuckled at their antics, enjoying that the three were able to be brave in the dangerous jungle where normal rookies wouldn't have succumbed to fear. They're an interesting bunch. After a short time trekking through the jungle, the quintet of individuals made it to an incredible sight. A bustling cityscape where all the buildings seemed to deal with the delicious food that is found on the island. Even certain buildings resembled food itself. One looked like meat with a bone sticking through it. Ah, this place smells incredible. Naruto's eyes were as wide as saucers ... and took on the look of one as he was treated to a food paradise. I know, I've lived here forever, and I never get tired of it. Toriko agreed and took a big whiff of the city and sighed contentedly with drool beginning to edge toward his mouth. Where should we check out first? Naruto darted his head all around trying to find somewhere to head. How about a food stand? I heard that they're supposed to be serving some stellar burgers. Toriko pointed in the direction of the stand. Sounds good to me. Naruto agreed and made to take off with the blue-haired man. But both were stopped by their respective friends with a hand gripping their ears. We're supposed to be feeding our guests, Toriko. The tour can come later. Koko sighed in exasperation at his friend, seeing him struggle to get his ear free. I don't know how many times I have to tell you, Ruko growled as she pulled Naruto's head down to her grit mouth. Her eyebrows twitching angrily. We don't have any money. She twisted his ear harshly. Oh, Naruto cried with tears running down his face. The sights will still be here later when you've all got the time. We're supposed to be treating you to the dish you caught. Koko placed a hand on the saddened blonde's shoulder to calm his depressed state. Where are you treating us anyway? Ichigo finally asked. Only the best restaurant on the island. Dead center of the whole place and the most popular of them all, so it's no exaggeration. Toriko pointed forward where there was a large line of nobles, royalty, and just about anyone with money waiting to get into the eatery. No kidding. And just how are we supposed to get in there? Ruko questioned, realizing that there would be no way that 3 penniless pirates would be able to get into a swanky place like that. Easy, we know the owner, Toriko and Coco replied and beckoned them toward the restaurant. The 5 of them nudged their way through the crowd of people. Or rather, the 3 pirates had to slowly make their way past the assorted people as they all seemed to part for Toriko as he walked through them all. Upon walking inside, they could see the place bustling with an insane number of patrons all having insane amounts of food on their plates. The customers gorged themselves on all the delectable confections that were brought to their tables with gusto, stomachs full, and craving more of the high-class food. A rather awing and disgusting sight. Geez, this place being the most popular doesn't seem to be an exaggeration. Ichigo grimaced at the display he was seeing, and that is saying something given who his captain is. Even if you two know the owner, I doubt he'd be able to get us a table. Ruko was with her swordsman crewmate as she grimaced at the gluttons surrounding her. Don't worry, I have a personal table for occasions like this. Toriko waved off the concern. A personal table? What do you? She made to ask, but a loud shout caught their attention. Damn, that boy. How could he leave us hanging right before the lunch rush? Poor Komatsu's probably dying in there. The boisterous voice was able to be heard by the entire building. Oi, Rin, why'd you let him leave? You know I can't say no to that face, Chief. All it took was that manly look in his eyes and I was helpless. A female voice swooned. I told you to keep him here. I know what he's doing, but I told him he could do it later. Hey, Mansum, I'm back. Toriko called. Handsome, me. The voice's anger was suddenly gone as it turned bashful. Standing before them was a muscular man, even more so than Toriko, in a camo muscle shirt and beige shorts. He was completely bald but oddly had what appeared to be bolts in his head and 2 vertical scars on the left side of his face. Next to him was a girl with short black hair, a scar on the right side of her face reminiscent of Toriko's except she only had one. She wore a red gi with green borders that showed off her legs. When the 2 registered just who had arrived, the girl began to blush visibly while the man furrowed his brows in irritation. Toriko. The girl ran up and hugged him. Hey, Rin, holding everything down? He asked. Of course. Toriko, she squealed to herself. Toriko, you bastard. Where the hell have you been? The lunch rush has been going on practically since you left. The man growled, though he didn't seem that angry as he took a drink from a bottle he had. I was out hunting. Gotta prep for tomorrow, Toriko answered. Damn it, I knew it, but I remember telling you had to go out before the rush or after it. He chided. Which is exactly why I left during it. I didn't want to be around here anyway, Toriko scoffed. If you want this place to stay afloat, we need to make this money. We could shut down the restaurant for a year and still have enough money to keep going. Toriko shrugged. That's beside the point. The man walked up to the blue-haired hunter and dug his index finger into his head. We've got reservations specifically asking for you. You don't think I know that? Why do you think I made sure to leave during the rush? He looked away annoyed. I'd rather be hunting than cooking for snobs that don't respect the food and use it as a status symbol, Toriko said profoundly, impressing the pirates. Like I care. You're wasting my time and money. All for a hunt with ... Hey, who are these guys you brought anyway? The man finally took notice of the rookies. These are some rookies that Coco and I ran into in the forest, and get this, they took out a galligator. Toriko grinned at the man's brow, raising in slight respect. Hey, Toriko, who's this old guy? Naruto asked. The owner of the restaurant, Mansum, and the girl over there is Rin, the head waitress, Coco answered. So, this old guy can get us a table, then. 'Cause I'm ready to eat. Naruto grinned. Call me handsome. I mean, Mansum. And not old, Mansum whined. I wanna eat, old guy. Sigh. Well, have you got money? Mansum asked. If they were Toriko's friends then he didn't have much choice. No, but we were hoping to use a kitchen to cook our haul. Ruko raised a hand. No money. What kind of pirates are you guys? Who comes to the gourmet capital without money for the food? He reprimanded. Sorry, but we're a business, not a charity. I can't be wasting resources and space cooking up this thing when we've got paying customers to feed. He was forced to shoot them down. Come on, Mansum. When was the last time we got rookie pirates that made it this far on the island? I think we should do this for them as a reward, Toriko offered. Even if you call me handsome, I don't think we can go for it, Mansum denied begrudgingly, mostly due to his mishearing of a compliment. Then how about we take a cut of their haul today? Toriko came up with a solution. We haven't had galligator on the menu for a while. The customers would probably go for it. Toriko motioned to the people that continued to feed. After rubbing his chin for a second as he thought, the muscular bald man gave a nod. Very well, gator is hard to pass up with that great meat they have, so if they're willing to give some up, you can go ahead and cook it for them. Sweet. You guys can go sit down at my table, I'll have this cooked up in a jiffy. Toriko grinned. Follow me, I can take you there. Rin smiled as she began to lead Coco, Ichigo, and Ruko away. Hey, where are you going? Ichigo yelled to his captain who was still following Toriko. I wanna watch the food get cooked. You guys can sit without me, Naruto told him. No non-employees allowed in the kitchen. Mansum shut him down. Man, you sure are random, old guy. Can't you just let me sit and watch? Handsome bold guy. Well, if you pour the compliments on that thick, I think I can let you pass, Mansum blushed. Do you have image problems or something, because that was a bit of a stretch. Ichigo's sweat dropped. Behave in there, Naruto. We don't want to get kicked out, Ruko warned her captain. Yeah, I gotcha. Naruto disappeared into the kitchen with Toriko, and immediately a clang was heard. Ruko could only rub her forehead. As they walked to the table, Ichigo decided to ask something that was bugging him. Say, Coco. Ichigo spoke to the man. I didn't take Toriko as the cooking type. I assumed the both of you were these Bishokuya guys that I heard about since you were out in the jungle hunting. Ichigo deduced. Not to mention he's got his own table. All those guys waiting outside seem to know him, and he's got personal reservations. Ruko put together. Just how good of a chef is he? Rin and Coco gave each other a knowing smile before he answered. I thought it would be obvious. Do you think that Mansum-san would be upset if any chef would up and disappear from the kitchen? Coco asked the confused pirates. Toriko's so famous and well known by the customers because he is the head chef. Rin smiled as she told them. Hey, Toriko-san has returned. Toriko-san, you left us during the lunch rush again. You know Toriko-san never likes to be around so many nobles at once. He still could run the kitchen like he's supposed to. I don't like being told that the food was subpar only for them to eat it anyway. These were the greetings that Naruto heard as he and Toriko walked into the kitchen. The blue-haired man apparently held great respect with all the chefs as they walked up to personally welcome him back to the kitchen and share good-natured jabs at his expense. Toriko Saiyan. Another voice called as a young man ran up and jumped at Toriko to wrap him in a hug. He wore regular chef's garb, had short black hair, large black eyes, and a rather large nose with wide nostrils. Hey, Komatsu, glad you held down the fort while I was gone. Toriko smiled at him. The small man jumped off Toriko to fume as he pointed an accusing finger. No thanks to you, Toriko-san. Imagine our surprise when we open and find that you aren't here. Then the rush starts, and we have no chance to look for you, and all the customers are constantly complaining about their reservations to have you cook for them. Yeah, that's great. Toriko made a dumb face at the upset boy, his eyes shrinking to dots and his nostrils flared out in disinterest. Don't make that face. Komatsu cried in anger. You all know what I'm doing. I was getting ready, and besides, if I didn't go out there today, I wouldn't have seen what I saw. I hope it was worth shirking your duties. Komatsu crossed his arms. It was. I met some interesting pirates that managed to take out a galligator, so I'm treating them, Toriko mentioned. Pirates, galligator, treating them. Yeah, Toriko said that this thing'll taste really good. Naruto finally found a moment to interject. Nice to meet you. Komatsu bowed multiple times, hoping he didn't offend the pirate and cause him to become angry. Name's Naruto, so are you in charge, little guy? Heavens no, Naruto-san. Toriko-san is the head chef here, I'm the sous chef. Komatsu waved off. Yep, Komatsu's my right hand, and could be head chef if he'd just accept the position. Toriko walked over to a large table and laid the galligator's body on it with Naruto placing the head there. I couldn't do that as long as you're here, Toriko-san. Komatsu blushed. You're too humble. You've gotta take credit where it's due, Komatsu, Toriko said as he washed his hands in a nearby sink. I guess you've gotta be good if you're cooking food that's so delicious that rich guys come in to eat all the time, Naruto praised. They mainly come to get a hold of Toriko-san, not me, Komatsu downplayed. Wanting to get the topic of discussion off him, Komatsu turned to the blonde. Tell me, Naruto-san, what brings you here? Most pirates avoid Gourmet Island. Just call me Naruto. And we're here because we needed to stock up on food and Ruko said this would be a good place to do it. And we're looking to recruit. Naruto hopped onto the table and crossed his legs beneath him so he would get a good view of Toriko's cooking process. Well, you came to the right place for both of those things. Toriko dried his hands and walked over to the reptile's corpse. Delicious food and cooks with the skill to prepare it are abundant around here, Toriko smiled. So, what are you going to make for us? Naruto asked excitedly, hopping up and down. Well, since we got to the city, I've been thinking about that. He put a hand to his chin. Since we weren't able to sample the burgers that just arrived, I was thinking of making some galala burgers from the meat. Sounds good to me. Naruto wiped his mouth. Glad to hear it. Toriko was getting to work when Naruto asked him, "Don't you need a knife or something to carve it up?" I've always got a knife on me." Toriko proceeded to swipe his right hand, causing a slice to run the length of the gator. Whoa, I know, it's always a spectacle to see Toriko-san work. Komatsu had stars shining in his eyes. It's nothing special. I've cooked so many of these things, I can probably do it blindfolded, Toriko said simply as he got to work. So, Toriko is a bishokuya and a chef. Can't say that I've heard of a combo like that even from the stories about this island. Ryuko sat with Koko and Ichigo at the table. "I'll grab some tea for you guys," Rin offered and went to fetch the beverages. "I don't fault you for it, and you would be right that it is an uncanny combination of occupations. Most bishokuya are content with hunting ingredients and bringing them to a skilled chef to prepare," Koko explained. "What makes Toriko so special, then?" Ichigo raised his eyebrow. There had to be a reason why Toriko would break the mold. Well, there was a time where he was similar to the rest of the bishokuya and disregarded cooking altogether unless he needed that service. But our father was able to break through to him and get him to learn. "Your father, you and Toriko are brothers?" Ichigo asked. "You don't look like each other," Ryuko said. Yes, technically Toriko and I along with 2 others are adopted siblings. Our father found us while we were young and took care of us. He made us what we are today, though Toriko was the only one of us to take to cooking. We thought that if one of us could do it, then why should the rest of us bother to learn? Toriko would get annoyed with us for always coming to him to prepare what we caught. Sounds like a good family you got there. Ryuko smiled with an elbow on the table as she put her chin in her palm. Rin had just arrived with the tea and passed it around. It was. Koko looked into the liquid with a somber expression. What happened? Ichigo asked. "Be a little more considerate." Ryuko chided him. "It's alright, I've come to terms with it. Our father passed away and that sent all of us down different paths." Koko grabbed his cup and drank a bit of his tea. "One of my brothers left soon after ... and chose to do something that none of us particularly agreed with." Rin looked down at the mention of him. The other, Koko had an odd look in his eyes just thinking about the other brother, a mix between sad and afraid. "You don't know where he is ... or did he?" Ryuko guessed. "No, we know exactly where he is ... and the fact that we know just where he is makes it all the harder to believe that we'll ever see him again." A silence went over the table because of the somber topic. "Why did you and Toriko stay?" Ichigo asked. "We were told to. Our father asked us not to leave the island until ... we did a certain something. Once he passed ... well, we didn't have too much of a reason to stick around, that's why they left anyway. And frankly, if Toriko had left as well, then I would have left too." Koko smiled. "You're staying because of him." Essentially, Toriko is respecting our father's wishes even though his death most likely affected him the most. I wouldn't want all his family to abandon him during that. The 2 pirates gained respect for the poison-wielding man and Toriko as well, knowing the pain of losing their family. "This tea is really good." Ryuko decided to move away from the topic. "Yes, it is." Koko appreciated it. In the kitchen, Toriko and Naruto were still in the same positions, talking as the blue-haired man continued to prepare the meal. Komatsu had moved off to the side once he saw that the 2 were connecting and didn't want to intrude. "Man, this looks good, Toriko. And you make it look so easy." Naruto watched the meat sizzle. "When you've cooked as much as I have, it becomes that easy. Though it's nice to see someone so enthusiastic about the process," Toriko said. "Yeah, well, to tell the truth, I haven't really been in a kitchen all that much, and whenever I had to cook something all I did was put it over a fire and wait until it got hot." Naruto scratched his cheek. "Seriously, you haven't had a home-cooked meal before?" Toriko looked appalled. "Yeah, but it wasn't so bad. I had someone to eat with." I get it." Toriko didn't elaborate. "I want to be able to experience more of the tastes out there. I've had so much here that it's pretty basic ... and my skills will get dulled cooking the same stuff for the same slobs over and over." Toriko cast his gaze to the pirate. "I want what you guys have." You wanna leave? But it's a food paradise." "It is, but even the most delicious food can get old if that's all you're tasting." I need to get out there and have my skills get used to preparing something new, my taste buds to light up with a new flavor." Toriko looked off. "If that's what you want ... then join my crew," Naruto said with a wide grin. Naruto-san, I don't think you should." Komatsu started. "Why not? If Toriko wants to explore the world and taste more, then joining up with us is a great way to do it." I plan on stopping at a bunch of different islands and meet all kinds of people and have awesome adventures. And I need a good cook. Toriko fits the bill and I like him. Naruto looked back into the blue-haired man's eyes and offered a hand. So, what do you say? Toriko reached his hand out, but ultimately pushed it aside with a sorry smile. As much as I want to, I can't. Why? I want you as my cook, no compromises. Naruto stubbornly frowned. I have something that I need to do before I can leave this island ... and I've waited a long time to do it. What do you have to do? Naruto leaned onto his side with his legs and arms still crossed defiantly. I'm going on a hunt tomorrow ... to catch a special ingredient and make a special dish from it. Once I do that, I'll be able to leave. Naruto closed his eyes and thought for a few moments. Alright, fine, we'll help you out on this hunt and you'll join my crew afterward. Deal. Naruto looked to him. Huh? You wanna help me hunt just to get me to join? Toriko asked. Of course, you're a great chef and you're tough. We need a cook for our journey and you're the only one I want, so I'm willing to do anything if it means you'll join, Naruto explained. Toriko looked at the peculiar pirate and thought back to stories he'd heard as a kid about a specific pirate ... and they were matching up with the way that the blonde was acting. Shouldn't you run this by your friends first? I don't want you getting pulled into something that you all don't want to do, Toriko said. They'll be fine with it. In fact, they'll be excited that we get to go on an adventure rather than go hunting for random animals the entire time we're here. Naruto laughed. If you say so ... why don't we bring the food out now? Toriko smiled and began to make the burgers. Outside, at the table, Ichigo and Ruko were sipping their tea calmly with a serene look on their faces, and their eyes were set in thin lines. Sigh, they let out a breath. Hey, guys, the food's ready. Naruto hopped over and plopped into a seat, giving a wave and greeting to Koko and Rin. Slurp sigh. Hey, Naruto, there you are. Ruko addressed her captain without losing her calm. Toriko made burgers from the gator meat. They look great. And I have something to tell you. Naruto repeatedly slapped the table in excitement. Slurp sigh. Hang on, we've got something to say, too. Ichigo put a hand up to silence the blonde. Okay, he smiled. Slurp sigh. Since we had to sacrifice some of our haul to get it cooked up, Ichigo and I decided that we should probably stay on the island for another day or so, Ruko said calmly. Oh really? That works out great. Naruto was happy it worked out with his plan. Slurp sigh. Yeah, we'll hunt some more and have it cooked up before we leave, Ichigo said. Oh, and what did you have to say? He and Ruko took another sip. Oh yeah, Toriko's going to be our cook, Naruto revealed. Slurp sigh. Oh, is that so? They both sipped again. But he said that he has to go on this hunt first. Slurp sigh. They barely listened. So, I told him that we'd help him with the hunt if he'd join us, Naruto said, smiling widely. Slurp sigh. I see. Herp. They sipped again, but their calm was broken when they registered just what the blonde had said, holding the tea in their mouths. Burgers coming out. Toriko came out with the food, balancing the plates with ease. Hey, I just told everyone the good news. Naruto rubbed his hands together as he got a hold of his food. And what do they think? Toriko asked. Splosh. The two spit out their tea into the air, so much was their shock. They overrode the calming tea. Rin blinked in surprise. I suppose this is quite the shock to them, Koko chimed in. See, I told you they'd be excited, Naruto grinned. That's excited. Toriko's sweat dropped. Wow, this burger's better than I thought it'd ... be. Naruto could barely enjoy the food before both his cheeks were pinched and pulled by his crewmates. His face deformed as it was pulled in opposite directions by the irate pirates. What do you think you're doing? Ichigo growled in his captain's face. We're supposed to have a simple visit. Don't overcomplicate things. Ruko pulled on his skin harshly, making him yelp. But we came here to find a cook. Naruto trailed off when they began to twist his cheeks. We came here to stock up on food and leave, Naruto. Ruko's eyes twitched before she did a complete 180 and turned to Toriko with a smile on her face and waved her hand dismissively. Don't listen to anything he says. He has this habit of butting into other people's business without having any idea what's going on. But if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have met you guys, right? Twist og. He was met with another sharp twist by his crewmates. I can't eat like this, he whined, staring at his burger. No harm done. I told him that it was an important hunt and he kind of went from there. But I wouldn't feel right about letting you guys get into more trouble if you came with me since the devil serpent almost got you. Toriko waved off the concern nicely, but a certain swordsman took umbrage with being looked down on. What's that supposed to mean? Ichigo looked to the blue-haired cook with narrowed eyes, his hand still squeezing the blonde's cheek. Toriko blinked in confusion, not sure what he did to offend him. I'm saying that you guys were taken by surprise because you didn't know what was in the jungle. And this hunt is going into the other half of the island ... And that place is a completely different experience. This caught the swordsman's interest, making him smirk in anticipation. You mean to tell me that this place has been holding out? Guess that old man wasn't just spitting out hot air. Not you too, Ruko sighed. Pointing her free index finger at him, she continued, we're supposed to be a united front against. She shook Naruto's head. This idiot. What about getting what we need and leaving? She pleaded. That was before an actual challenge was put in front of me. Ichigo smiled. The way I see it. You said this place is supposed to make pirates turn tail and run because the monsters are strong. And so far, I haven't seen anything worthy of that reputation. So, I want to see what the so-called scary part of the island is like. Maybe it will be worth something. Ichigo reasoned, finally letting go of his poor leader's cheek. So, you're telling me. Ruko smacked her face and drew her hand down slowly as she looked between her fingers. Yeah, I'm with our idiot captain here. I'll go on the hunt, and if Toriko wants to join up with us after he can. Why am I the only sane one here? Ruko's head fell onto the table. You can just wait for us to come back if you want, Ruko. Naruto smiled as he devoured his food in an instant once his cheeks had been freed. I'm stuck with you idiots, or else who knows what will happen to you. She shot up with a face that frightened the blonde, who cowered in case she hit him. Ha ha ha, Toriko laughed loudly. What's so funny? Ruko asked angrily. Ichigo had his eyebrow raised, and Naruto tilted his head. You guys are. I just told you about a hunt that will take you through uncharted territory, and you're completely unfazed by it. You aren't like any pirates we've seen. Toriko grinned. If you're ready, then I'll take you with me. The hunt starts tomorrow. Awesome, now hand me some more burgers. Naruto cried. Save some for the rest of us. Ichigo reached over and grabbed one quickly. I can't believe that I'm getting dragged into another mess because of you two ... and all that's on your mind are ... These are good. Ruko lamented until she tasted the food. While the three pirates enjoyed their food, Koko addressed his foster brother quietly on the other side of the table. Toriko, are you sure about this? Koko asked. He's adamant about it. I feel like even if I did say no, he'd come anyway ... He kind of reminds me of the old man. Toriko smiled as he watched Naruto stuff multiple burgers into his mouth. He does have that air ... and his aura is powerful ... He'll have an interesting future. Koko's eyes locked onto the choking blonde as he was assisted by his crewmates. Alright, then, since you guys are joining me on this hunt, I'll have to tell you just what it is we're going after and how we're gonna get it. Toriko got up to retrieve a map. Yeah, what are we hunting? Naruto asked excitedly. A super special ingredient. A bird, Toriko revealed. On the other side of the island, through the even denser jungles on the darker half of Gourmet Island, there lies a base, a large castle, dark and surrounded by thorns to dissuade brave creatures from attacking. Though knowing what resided within, they wouldn't want to unless they had a death wish. Inside the abode, there was a throne with a man sat upon it that exuded sheer presence and power. He was very muscular and wore an outfit that resembled a training gi, only deep black with a sash that was red. The man's face was calm and slightly wrinkled with 3 vertical scars over each of his eyes that reached his cheeks. A mess of black hair sat on his head that resembled flames, and a brown 3-pointed beard was on his chin. In front of him stood 4 men of varying appearances, with one specific man wearing a mask on his face. You are all prepared for your mission? The man on the throne asked, though they all knew that it was no question. Hi, boss. They all answered. Then be ready at the appropriate time and bring me that ingredient ... to sate my appetite, he said, and watched them all disperse. Once he was alone, the man shifted his posture and put a fist to his cheek lazily as he stared off into space, a look in his eyes as if there was a person there. Let's see if you were right, he said cryptically. 4 pairs of footsteps were heard trudging through the jungle early in the morning. 3 pirates and 1 Bishokuya chef were walking to the mysterious, dangerous, and practically uncharted back half of Gourmet Island. An idea that residents and regulars of the food paradise would find foolish, as it is well known that the extreme conditions of that jungle, along with even more ferocious animals when compared to the jungle on the safe half. And that is when the jungle isn't going through its change. The 4 approached a large gate that had no security, for no one would dream of willingly going into such a dangerous area of the island. The gate itself was beat up with no maintenance being done since its erection, animals having come and gone after chasing the brave and foolish that couldn't cut it in the jungle, whether they had made it to live another day or had been devoured by the predators that had followed them back. claw marks stretched across the gate and the ground surrounding it, both from animals and the unfortunate souls that had been dragged back into the darkness. The three newbies to this island thought back to the conversation they'd had with the cook the other day, explaining what they'd be in for as they hunted this special ingredient. What we're after is the billion bird, Toriko revealed with a grin on his face, having pulled out a map of the island and pointed to where they'd be heading. Billion bird, Naruto asked, salivating as his imagination went wild. He wondered what something like that would look like. And it can only be found in that dangerous half of the jungle, Ryuko asked with a raised brow, wondering why they had to go through all the trouble. Yeah, rare ingredients, dangerous ingredients, anything you can imagine will be found in the gourmet jungle. Gourmet jungle, Ichigo spoke up. It's our nickname for it. The jungle where we met is called the appetizer jungle because all it does is whet your appetite for the main course, and most people can't handle it. Toriko explained. Where are we going to find this bird, then? It is a whole jungle, Ryuko pointed out. Well, we're in luck. I've been in and out of the jungle for years, barely making out a few times, and I have it on good authority that the billion bird hasn't actually hatched yet but it will be tomorrow. How is that lucky? That just means that it goes from a stationary target to a moving one. Ichigo frowned. It's lucky because we know it will be in the jungle portion. Toriko grinned at the questioning looks he got from the pirates. Jungle portion but it's all jungle, right? Naruto tilted his head as he tried to wrap his head around what the cook was getting at. You all aren't natives, so it will seem a bit peculiar, but currently our island has expanded, Koko spoke up. Expanded. Ryuko rubbed her chin. Exactly. Every few months Gourmet Island undergoes a ripening, as we call it, and, in a way, begins to fold outward. The half we're on is mostly unaffected other than suffering some shaking as the latter half changes. This change essentially signals the mating seasons of animals as they are forced into tighter space, and certain animals only come out during this change because the island also begins to have terrain and climates alter drastically. We're talking lanes of different ecosystems like caves, plains, mountains, and of course, the jungle stays, Toriko explained. Grand line, Naruto sang to his crewmates as his eyes sparkled in wonder. The two sighed as they didn't want to deal with him. So, the billion bird will be found in one of those lanes, then, Ichigo reasoned. Not just one, it will be in the jungle lane as that's the climate it can live in and has the optimal conditions for it to hatch. So we just need to find it there. Toriko gave a thumbs up. Hang on, why are we going after the egg rather than its parent? Unless we're hunting the egg specifically. But you said that it'd be hatching tomorrow, so that gives us a bit of a time crunch, doesn't it? Ryuko reasoned. Toriko looked at her with a neutral expression as he thought. Koko had an idea of what he was thinking about, but remained silent since it wasn't his place to say anything. We are after the bird itself, but we have to go after the egg because this is the last billion bird in existence. Toriko revealed, the pirates being silent at the news. It has many predators in the gourmet jungle and was sought after very heavily due to being practically defenseless while young. So parents would have children only to be unable to protect them from the creatures that hunted them, and their numbers dwindled steadily to this point. I've been going into the jungle all these years to try and retrieve the egg before it hatches because of the danger the chick would be in. But I wasn't able to handle it. Basically speaking, if we don't get the billion bird tomorrow, there is a good chance that it will go extinct, and I can't let that happen. Not just for the sake of the dish I want to make, but also because nothing deserves to be wiped from existence. Then you can count on us, Naruto shouted immediately after Toriko with a grin and pumped fist. We'll catch that bird easy. He broke through the dour atmosphere seemingly without thinking about it with his optimism and belief in his team's skills. Doesn't seem all that difficult. If anything, you're making it easier than I'd thought it'd be. All we have to do is check the jungle route and find this egg, Ichigo agreed with his captain. Don't forget that it is easier said than done. We don't know what the size of that one lane will be relative to us, Ryuko pointed out. Then we split it into sections. Naruto asked as if it was simple. You can't be this simple. Ryuko rubbed her forehead. Actually, he isn't far off. The jungle and all the surrounding ecosystems lead to the same place, the shore on the opposite side of the island. The four of us will be combing the jungle as we head there. It should only take a day to reach the opposite side. The plan is to search as we go through, camp on shore for the night, and then head back before the island begins to close back up, Toriko said, dragging his index finger across the gourmet jungle from their position and back again. Close back up. Ryuko sighed. Of course it is. Guess we can't expect it to stay open forever. Nope, that's where our streak of luck seems to run out. We'll be heading in on the last day of the ripening. That way most of the animals will be more docile after feeding and mating. Well, at least you have this planned out. Ruko looked to her crewmates. Ichigo was picking his ear, half listening. And Naruto had a hand to his chin and was nodding but didn't seem to truly understand what was being said outside of the basics. It's a breath of fresh air, you know. She sighed. Hold on. You said the four of us. You aren't coming, Koko. Ichigo looked at the man. No, I've retired as a Bishokuya. I was only with Toriko out in Appetizer Jungle as a sparring partner, and it was during one of our spars that we happened on you three, Koko said calmly. Knowing what they did about Koko and Toriko's past, Ruko and Ichigo could understand why the man was probably keeping his hands off this hunt, as it was the blue-haired man's last connection to their father. That sucks. I'd like to see more of your poison moves, Naruto grumbled with all the tact of the animals found on this island. Though they couldn't blame him since he didn't know. Well, that's all for the explanation side of things. Now we need to learn about what we're looking for. Toriko went to get another parchment that most likely had the billion birds appearance until. Hang on. Naruto slammed his hands on the table with a shout. I have a question. Same here, but I'm guessing that Toriko's about to go into what it looks like. Ruko looked to the blonde, feeling pride that he seemed to realize they hadn't gotten that important fact. Nope, I want to know if you've got cool hunting clothes for us to wear. Naruto pointed a thumb at himself. And then hit the floor. You idiot. Why don't you ever have anything worthwhile to say? Ruko's fist smoked from the blow, Senketsu's eye looking to her with a sweat drop. But looking cool is important. Naruto twitched. I agree. If I'm going out into the jungle, it better be something functional and stylish. I'm wearing, Ichigo concurred. See, Naruto got back up. Who cares what we're wearing in a jungle? Morons. I thought girls were supposed to be the ones that care about what they wear. Ruko sighed angrily. Don't be naive. Guys want to look awesome at all times, Ichigo said seriously with a dramatic shadow on his face. Ruko edged toward the swordsman, intending on having him join their captain on the floor, but was stopped by Toriko speaking up. Come now, guys, this is important. He got up and turned his back on all of them. Finally, back on track. Ruko smiled. Do you have so little faith in me? Toriko turned his head around and jabbed his thumb toward himself with a wide smile. Of course I've got cool hunting clothes for all of you. So you had me worried for a second there. Naruto was relieved. Guess we underestimated you. Toriko, Ichigo smirked. Please, you think I'd be caught dead hunting in anything less than stylish and awesome? Toriko laughed. The three men then proceeded to high-five each other in joy. Ruko, with a smile on her face and her eyes closed, calmly approached the three, cracking her knuckles. Soon they were all on the floor. Who the hell cares about clothes? Scary. But I don't disagree with them. Koko thought to himself. He didn't feel like becoming acquainted with the young girl's fist. You should. We're going into a jungle and there are the surrounding climates to worry about. Wearing a school uniform doesn't seem like the best idea. I could loan something to you too. Toriko rose and rubbed his head. I don't want to. Senketsu is all I need to wear, Ruko replied with a huff. She named her clothes. Toriko whispered. Yeah, talks to them too, Ichigo whispered back. I think it's unique, Naruto joined. I can hear you, she whispered, having interjected into the huddle with an evil gleam in her eye at their scared expressions. Another pounding ensued, with all three men trying and failing to get the smaller girl to stop harming them over their diversion from their discussion, with Koko and Rin attempting to hold her back. All the while, the forgotten parchment with the billion bird on it remained on the table, only slightly unrolled to give a glimpse of its contents before a thud from the brawl caused it to roll back up and remain out of their minds. Kinda cute for a warning, isn't it? Ichigo smirked, looking at the signs that littered the gate. For his hunting outfit, he wore baggy camouflage pants that had large pouch-like pockets on the legs, held up by a belt with a fork and knife crossed over each other on the buckle. On his torso was an open camo jacket with long sleeves only. Instead of traditional camo colors, the jacket was all white with black spots. As always, Zenjutsu was strapped to the swordsman's back. Enter the jungle at your own risk. We won't be coming to save you, you know. The sign read, ending with the familiar faces of Mansum and Gyro, laughing their chibi heads off on opposite sides of the sign. This is getting me excited. Naruto shook in anticipation. His hunting outfit consisted of a jacket similar to his old one, that he was lucky enough to get a hold of thanks to Toriko. Only this one was a forest green color, mainly with light green stripes resembling vines with leaves growing from them trailing up the arms and led to the back of the jacket to attach to a tree design. It also had a high collar that reached the middle of Naruto's cheeks with zipper teeth lining it despite serving no function. On his legs, he wore dark green cargo shorts with multiple pockets, and to top off his look he wore a red bandana on his head that had a web of vines crisscrossing on it with a row of roses, all with different colors rounding the middle of it. Why don't you two keep your eyes on the prize? Ruko had her hand in her pocket, still wearing her trusty kamui. They can't help it, and I don't blame them either. My blood was pumping when I stepped foot in the gourmet jungle for the first time, Toriko chortled. For his hunting outfit, Toriko wore an orange spandex sleeveless vest over a thin blue short-sleeved muscle shirt with matching orange cargo pants held up by a simple black belt and dark blue knee-high boots. Toriko ran a hand across the gate and a look of recognition shined in his eyes when he saw a small hole that had been dug through the dirt that would allow something to squeeze in from the bottom. "Aw, I recognize this. Got into a fight with a few beasts in the forest, couldn't even stand afterward, and had to drag myself back here. Of course, they weren't gonna let their prey get away ... so I had to dig a hole just to escape from them." Toriko sounded nostalgic as he recounted a story that most people would want to repress. "Awesome," the two pirate men said, Naruto with stars sparkling around his head and Ichigo doing his best to not look impressed. "Tell me again how that's supposed to be awesome." Ryuko rolled her eyes. She didn't understand how guys could get a thrill out of almost getting killed. "Let's go." Naruto went inside as Toriko opened the gate to allow them in with his crewmates following closely behind. "Quiet down," Ryuko sighed. Once they'd entered, the sunlight had become a scarce resource as only pinpricks could be seen through the leaves of the extremely tall trees. The foliage was so dense that it practically appeared as if it was night in the jungle rather than the early morning. "Wow, these trees are huge." Naruto tried to see the tops but was unable to thanks to the leaves. "That's one way to tell the difference between the two jungles," Ichigo admitted. "Yep, everything here is like the appetizer jungle dialed up to 11. The plants, terrain, and the animals shouldn't be taken lightly," Toriko warned with a toothy grin. "Even the plants here are." Ryuko was cut off by the chef. "Gourmet ... one and all. Ha, this is great. I wonder how long it'll be before we get to see one of the monsters," Naruto said to Ichigo. "Hopefully not too long. I want to see if they're as tough as Toriko makes them out to be." Ichigo grinned. "We're hunting a bird," Ruko reminded, though it fell on deaf ears as the two continued to talk about what they wanted to see from the scary rookie barrier. Too bad for them, someone was going to hedge those expectations and it wasn't Ruko this time. "Don't get your hopes up." Toriko dumped a figurative bucket of cold water on the two. "Why not?" Naruto tilted his head. "You said the beasts here were dangerous." Ichigo crossed his arms with a frown. "I did, and they are. But I also said that they'd be docile unless provoked during the ripening, remember? That's why we're so lucky with the timing of the billion birds hatching, since we won't have to deal with them hunting it. Our only foreseeable problems should be the environment, our time limit, and the fact that we don't know where the bird is," Toriko explained. The two scrappy boys were none too happy at this revelation, shown by the extreme look of unhappiness and shock on their faces. "I didn't take you as someone that would think that far ahead." Ruko was shocked at Toriko's forethought. "You'd be right." Toriko shot down her rising sense of respect. "Normally I would just rush in, but these circumstances just happened to line up, so that's why I said we were lucky," Toriko revealed. "Then why'd you tell us about all the dangers?" Ichigo shouted angrily. "Because I didn't want you guys to come here without the full scope," Toriko said matter-of-factly. "What's the point of coming into a jungle if we're not gonna have an adventure?" Naruto pouted. "I thought we were here because you wanted Toriko to be our cook." Ruko raised a brow. "Yeah, but that's like the third reason why." "I'm third. Then what are the other two things?" Toriko cried comical tears that he wasn't even number 2 on the blonde pirate's list of priorities. "Focus on what we're doing now." Ruko rubbed her forehead. The two angered pirates crossed their arms and huffed, turning their heads away defiantly as they continued to walk. "HMPH, maybe I'll just go find one and fight it anyway," Naruto said under his breath. "I'll help," Ichigo said back. "You do that, and I'll drown the both of you." Ruko slammed their heads together. "Seriously, if I'm number 3, what are the other two things?" Toriko still wanted an answer. This is how the hunt began, on a disjointed, disappointing note. Though these feelings weren't to last, as the four felt a rumbling beneath their feet. Naruto and Ichigo immediately sprang to action as they stood in front of their group. "I knew this place wouldn't let me down." Ichigo grinned. "See, we'll have an adventure after all. Idiots. Remember that the island's been opening up and the animals are docile. This is probably just one of the quakes that the island has while it expands, right?" Ruko turned to the island inhabitant of their group with a self-assured smile. The serious expression on Toriko's face told a different story though, as the man stared in the direction that the rumbling was coming from, preparing himself for battle. No, the ripening becomes complete after a few days, and then the expansion stops completely until the island starts to contract back to its original shape. Its contraction won't happen until tomorrow, so this has to be coming from something else. Toriko's eyes narrowed. The rumbling drew closer and closer, with the four being put on guard as it became louder. A trumpet-like sound rang through the air in addition to the crumbling of trees beneath whatever was plowing through them until the immense animal was revealed to them. It's a. Toriko froze with widened eyes. A huge elephant. Naruto laughed giddily as he raised his head to see the towering animal. Elephants don't have fur ... so it's a mammoth. Ruko's eyes ran over the creature, taking in its features. A mammoth with two trunks ... and a tail. And wings ... with tiger stripes. Ichigo was equally dumbfounded by this animal. Indeed, the large mammoth that stood high above the four hunters, even managing to tower above the large trees, had two trunks side by side on its face along with 6 legs, and 2 large tusks. On its back were 2 small wings that didn't look they could lift its massive body, and a tail that dragged along the ground behind it. And all over its body was reddish fur with black stripes that resembled a tiger's. A tiger-elephant, Naruto mused. No, a regal mammoth, Toriko stated in awe. All my time's coming in here and I've never seen one. It's that rare. Whoa, Ruko whistled. We just keep getting luckier. Ichigo scratched his head. An honor, Naruto nodded. The mammoth finally seemed to regard the group below it and lowered one of its trunks near them. It's smelling us. Ruko didn't seem very happy with the idea. Hey, Toriko, does this thing taste good? Leave it to the blonde to have his mind on one thing. Delicious. The meat of the regal mammoth is good enough on its own, but the real flavor is found in a specific portion that absorbs the flavor from all the other parts of its body, the jewel meat. It's said that it shines brighter than any jewel could. Amazing. The three were awed by the information even as the mammoth began to inhale with the trunk that was positioned above them. And you know the reason why it has 2 trunks, Toriko said as if he were speaking to students. The suction of the regal mammoth's trunk had increased as he talked, causing the group's clothes to rustle, and twigs, leaves, and rocks rose from the ground. Why? Naruto asked curiously. Because one is for sucking prey in and the other is for spitting out the bones. Interesting. The pirates nodded calmly. Why didn't you say something sooner? Ruko screamed at the chef who sported multiple bumps from the pummeling he'd received from her. The 3 were currently running from the enraged mammoth as it continued to try and suck them in through its trunk while its second was spewing the bones of unfortunate creatures out. I'm sorry. Toriko groaned in pain, running at full speed, avoiding any debris that was floating upward. Let's just beat it up, Naruto said simply, looking over to Toriko. I'm all for that. I don't feel like getting eaten. Ichigo sneered at the beast with a hand on Zenjutsu. Why is this thing gunning for us anyway? It's forcing us off course. Ruko growled. Once the chase had begun, the 4 had been trying their best to lose the monster, but its speed and tenacity forced them to swerve off their original path, so they were now running parallel to their destination. We better do something soon or else we'll hit the next climatic lane, Toriko warned. I'll take care of it, Naruto said happily and jumped up to the beast's face with a fist cocked back. Wait, Naruto, we need a plan first. The fading voice of Ruko called to her captain. Hope you're ready for this. Naruto smiled wildly and thrust his fist encased in wind between the regal mammoth's eyes. Tenpasudo Panchai. The attack hit true as the explosive force of the condensed wind exploded outward and seemed to halt the large creature as it had stopped moving. Naruto landed the bridge of its noses with his brow raised. Did he do it? Ichigo couldn't see from their position. Don't know, but it stopped. Ruko looked up as well despite not being able to see either. Get down. It isn't done, Toriko yelled. The mammoth's eyes focused on the blonde standing in its face and roared, rocking its body back and forth in an effort to shake the blonde off. From the violent shaking, Naruto was forced to grip the animal's fur lest he falls off, enraging it further as it began to stomp around once more and run forward. It was now more focused on ridding itself of the blonde than it was with his companions. Help! Naruto shouted over the beast's roars. What are you doing up there? Ichigo screamed in anger. We've got to bring this thing down. Ruko drew her scissor blade and then looked to Toriko. That all right with you? As long as it isn't a lethal blow. We have to defend ourselves. Toriko skidded to a stop with the other 2 next to him. Let's go for the legs and work our way up, Ichigo reasoned and dashed off with the girl following. Toriko, meanwhile, noticed a gash was in the mammoth's side and the animal's rage began to make sense to him. It's hurt. Makes sense. A regal mammoth is so large it doesn't have much in the way of predators, so normally it doesn't care about anything around it. But something attacked this one and it fled our way. What or who could have spooked a regal mammoth of all things? As Toriko was wondering about this mystery, the 2 pirates had arrived at the front legs of the monster and made to slice into them and force it to kneel. Gliding across the ground and kicking up dirt, the 2 pirates' blades shone as they approached their target. Unfortunately, the beast looked down and saw them. in a move that no one would believe a mammoth capable of. The beast jumped straight up and drew its legs in to keep them out of sight. Below, Ichigo and Ruko had just swung the blades and missed the mammoth, confusing the two as they didn't notice the maneuver. The hell? Ruko stopped herself. Where'd it go? Ichigo was surprised when he noticed the shadow on the ground. Looking up, he was shocked that the large creature had jumped into the air fast enough that it managed to confuse both him and Ruko. Watch out, it's coming down, Toriko shouted, making his way over to the two. Damn, this thing is smart. Ruko jumped away with the swordsman just as the mammoth landed on the ground, causing a large tremor and making cracks appear all over the ground. Tougher than the others, Ichigo pointed out. Looks like Toriko wasn't lying about the level the animals were on in the gourmet jungle. I wonder how many it'll take just to dent this thing. Toriko mused as he readied a Kyugi punch, only for his footing to suddenly slip out from under him. What? He was shocked as a large hole opened underneath him, leading to who knows where. Damn it. He hissed as the ground swallowed him up. Toriko, Ruko shouted when she saw their guide disappear underground and the hole along with him as the ground seemingly healed over. He can take care of himself. We need to focus on this thing, Ichigo warned her. That second that the swordsman took to regard his crewmate was enough for the mammoth to capitalize on as it quickly moved its leg above Ichigo to stomp on him. The swordsman reacted by leaping to the side, blocking the rocks that had been kicked up by the stomp. He saw that the mammoth was slightly off balance from placing its weight in one leg. Using this as an opening, Ichigo jumped up to attack the monster's side, believing that it wouldn't be able to defend itself there. Zenjutsu was poised to stab into the regal mammoth's stomach and hopefully end the fight then and there, but it was for naught. Shifting its weight, the creature slammed its body to the side forcefully, surprising Ichigo as he wasn't prepared for the sudden movement, and forcing him to block. The force behind the equivalent to a hip check pushed the swordsman away at extreme speed and knocked him through several trees before disappearing in the thick foliage. Ichigo, both Naruto and Ruko shouted. You lousy elephant. Ruko's eyes narrowed in rage as she moved to slice the mammoth. Out of the corner of her eye, Ruko saw the mammoth swing its trunks at her to knock her away just like Ichigo. Stopping her charge, Ruko jumped upward to avoid the attack, but forgot a key detail. While resembling a mammoth, this creature was anything but, as it had plenty of extra appendages. And the appendage that the navigator had failed to remember was the large tail the regal mammoth had that now met her face as it slammed into her. This thing ... it knew I'd jump. Not just their strength and speed are off the charts ... it's their intelligence too. Just as Ruko finished her thought, she shared Ichigo's fate as she was flung through the air to parts unknown. Guys, Naruto shouted, gripping the fur of the regal mammoth tighter in his anger. The rampaging creature had not settled down even after ridding itself of most of its enemies. It continued to rage as it smashed through trees and shook its body. You stupid tiger-elephant. Quit wrecking our hunt. Naruto let go of the mammoth's fur just as it raised itself to stomp, so he could let loose a stomp of his own. Gathering the wind to his feet, Naruto let the added height of the regal mammoth's stomp give his attack an extra bit of force as he fell onto the top of the monster's head, releasing a boom when he landed. Teizachai. Naruto landed forcefully on the animal's head with enough power to cause the regal mammoth to fall onto its stomach as its legs splayed out underneath it. The poor creature, while not unconscious from the blow, had calmed considerably, letting out a defeated bellow from its trunks as it panted tiredly. Sliding down the hulking creature's side, the blonde pirate captain noticed the gash in its side. Placing a hand on it, Naruto somberly ran his fingers over it, the light touch barely registering to the massive mammoth. But it let Naruto know everything. So, something hurt you. Naruto blinked, taking his hand from the wound. He saw that it was slightly wet from the blood. He circled to the beast's face and looked into its tired and angry eyes. It looked at the blonde with bloodshot eyes, wanting to continue attacking. Imagine its surprise when Naruto reached his hand out and patted one of the regal mammoth's trunks. You weren't attacking for no reason ... but that doesn't mean you should have gone around knocking my friends away. Naruto ended sternly even if there was no true animosity toward the animal. Naruto still realized the pickle he was in. I'll go look for Ichigo first. He shouldn't be too far away. Naruto looked in the direction his friend was flung in but was surprised to see that there was no damage. No felled trees, no broken ground, nothing. Huh? What happened? The jungle's all normal. Naruto ran to the trees to inspect them, but couldn't see anything amiss, and that was the problem. I'll just retrace my steps and... Naruto looked behind the mammoth and was met with a similar dilemma. The path of destroyed jungle that was left in the wake of the rampaging regal mammoth was mostly gone. The blonde pirate was able to catch at the last second a broken stump that soon sprouted into a completely new tree. Naruto pinched his lip in deep thought as he watched the process, using his deductive reasoning. It's just like Toriko said. These are like super trees or something, or maybe gourmet trees. Guess that means that it all grows back extra fast, like when the ground closed up after Toriko fell in. Everything in this jungle, the animals, the trees, the plants, and even the ground is gourmet, Naruto said dramatically to himself. The mammoth sighed to itself as it heard this human mumbling. Okay, if the guys got knocked away then they'll be in those different lanes. Toriko said that it's a straight shot to the opposite shore no matter which one we'd wind up in, so they'll be able to take care of themselves, Naruto reasoned aloud. And since I'm the only one still in the jungle lane, he pounded a fist into his open palm, I have to be the one to find the billion bird. Naruto smiled. He then began to trek forward with an arm outstretched in front of him as he pointed ahead of himself, marching enthusiastically. They're gonna be so surprised when I find it all on my own. He then stopped dead in his tracks, frozen in place with his smile still present as a gross realization hit him. Hang on ... what does the bird look like? Naruto crossed his arms and brought a hand to his chin as he tried to recall the explanation of last night. All he could remember was a hail of fists raining down on his poor blonde head to the point it jarred him out of his recollection with a jolt of fear. Aw man, stupid Ruko. Toriko was gonna tell us what it looked like. But she got all upset that we were going to get cool hunting clothes and she wasn't, tisk. Now cause of her I have no idea what the billion bird looks like. Naruto pouted at his memory. The regal mammoth, despite having no idea what the blonde was saying, looked dumbfounded at him. Meanwhile, a small bird had just landed on a tree next to the blonde, looking curiously at the great mammoth and odd human. Alright ... so I don't know what it looks like ... but I do know it's a bird. Naruto's eyebrows were knit together as he exercised his brain like never before to come up with a plan of action, and his incredible effort bore fruit when his eyes shot open as he got an idea. I got it. All I need to do is catch all the birds I come across. One of them has got to be the billion bird if I catch enough. Naruto grinned at his brilliant idea. Now all I need is a bird. Naruto wondered to himself. At this point, the confused avian that had joined decided now was the best time to chirp. Tweet. Naruto's eyes shot to the bird, a blank, wide-eyed expression on his face as he stared it down. The bird caught the blonde's blue orbs and grew nervous from the intense stare he was giving it. The bird began to sweat lightly and tremble as they stared unblinkingly into each other's eyes, the beak of the bird slightly open. Chirp. Suddenly the two were off as the bird flew like its life depended on it as it was chased by a furiously running blonde, his eyes widened out in concentration, running with all his might after the fleeing animal. Get back here, you bastard. Are you the billion bird? Crashing soon followed as Naruto ran after his prey, leaving behind the regal mammoth which sweat dropped to itself as it observed the crazy human chase after the poor bird. And so, Naruto, the blonde pirate captain, finds himself on his own in the gourmet jungle. With no clue as to the appearance of the billion bird, he has decided to hunt every bird that he comes across, causing him to stray from the straight path to shore as he searches and making his journey take longer as a result. Naruto will arrive on the opposite shore tonight. Damn, the gourmet caves. Toriko had his hand in his pockets as he looked into the darkness of the cave that stretched ahead of him. Looking up, there was no evidence of the hole he'd fallen through. I'm worried about them since they aren't used to the ecosystems, but I'm sure that they'll be fine. Worst comes to worst, we can look for the billion bird on the return trip. I just didn't want to deal with the time limit. Toriko shrugged and began to walk forward into the dark cave. It just sucks that I wound up in the caves of all things ... This is going to be a real boring day. Toriko put his hands in his pockets and caught the eye of one of the creatures in the cave which quickly scurried away in fear of the blue-haired chef who sighed to himself. Toriko, the head chef, finds himself in the gourmet caves. Unfortunately, for him, the caves are known for having squeamish beasts that often keep to themselves rather than attack humans. So it has become a leisurely stroll for the man as the caves are a straight shot to the opposite shore, meaning that his chances of running into danger are very slim. Are you serious? Ichigo was confused as he stood in the middle of a field with tall grass that reached his knees. He could see far thanks to a severe lack of trees in the area as the only thing that was with him other than the grass blowing in the wind was a lone rock. I know that this place is supposed to have different areas or whatever, but I don't think that a prairie is considered an ecosystem. Ichigo didn't see a difference in the jungle and a prairie other than one had fewer trees. The poor fool. This so-called rookie barrier is beginning to annoy me. How a pirate could be chased from here is embarrassing to think about. And now, I'm still probably not going to see any of those strong monsters either. Rumble. Ichigo stopped his rant to look behind him, only to be met with the rock that sat there. Blinking, Ichigo turned back around to look ahead, seeing the tall grass waving as it was blown. Only thing to do is move to the meetup point and wait for the others then. Ichigo began to walk. Rumble. Turning quickly around, Ichigo saw the rock again, but it was slightly closer to him and he was able to tell that it had moved forward because the grass behind it had been flattened. You've got to be kidding. Ichigo frowned at the rock but ultimately decided to ignore it. Whatever the creature was, it didn't attack him, so he'd give it a pass for the moment. Sigh, I wonder if everyone else is doing alright. Ichigo scratched the back of his head, his face deadpan as he continued to hear the rustling of the grass behind him. The swordsman, Kurosaki Ichigo, has landed in a vast field after the altercation with the regal mammoth. Appearing to be completely alone, Ichigo moves onward to the group's meetup point, though he may have company. Are you shitting me? Ruko shouted over the howling winds she was enveloped by, hugging herself to try and stay warm with frost covering her body. The navigator found herself in a frozen wasteland as far as she could tell, since the extreme cold and harsh winds made it hard to see ahead of her. A trench of snow lay behind her to indicate where she landed. I get that there are different ecosystems on the island ... but a frozen wasteland. I was just in a damn jungle a second ago. Ruko shivered in anger. Her fury, while burning hot, did nothing to warm her body. Hey, send Senketsu ... why don't we synchronize? I'll warm up a bit, right? Ruko asked her partner and received no answer. Senketsu. She looked down and saw that her living clothing had been frozen solid, complete with a sheen of light glinting off Senketsu's frozen form. His eye was wide in surprise and it stuck on him by the time he'd frozen over. Damn it, guess the both of us haven't really been in snow before, so it's no wonder that we aren't used to it. Ruko frowned and crunched the snow beneath her as she slowly moved forward. I've got to find a way to warm up and thaw you out, or else we're both gonna end up frozen. Ruko's teeth chattered as she rubbed her arms. The girl walked over an ice formation that soon began to tremble violently, causing her to slip off into the cold snow below her. What the hell? She shouted, irate at whatever caused her to fall and making her colder in the process. Underneath the layer of frost, a large dragon appeared, letting out a loud roar as it was revealed. The dragon had white leathery skin. But that wasn't the thing that Ruko was paying attention to. The pirate girl's eyes were focused on the luxurious fur that covered the large beast. It all seemed to go into slow motion for her as she watched the large reptile swing its head to and fro, almost as if it were showing it off. The beast's fur swung with the movements of its head waving beautifully in the air, and Ruko's eyes were solely focused on every strand as it fell over the monster's back. With its little display finished, the dragon leaned its head down to the small human and roared in her face. Its horrid breath wafted over her, but Ruko was unfazed, her eyes covered in shadow by her bangs. Once the beast had finished roaring at her, it brought its head back, expecting the weak human to flee in fear. Instead, it heard ominous chuckling coming from the girl, who brought an odd red blade up in front of her face. Ruko's eyes gleamed dangerously and gave a sadistic smirk as her eyes stayed fixated on the monster's fur. So warm ... fur ... she said chillingly and took a step forward. The creature was unnerved and took a hesitant step backward. Where are you going? You have something I want. She chuckled more and kept up her approach. Ruer. The poor creature began to cry tears as the terrifying woman lunged at it, fully intent on taking whatever it was that she wanted. Pant. The blonde captain was hunched over, breathing heavily with a hand on his knee. Sweat covered his brow and wet his bandana as he tried to regain his breath after he'd been running around for about a half hour. The fruits of his labor were angrily flapping their wings behind him, trying to escape. A good number of birds had been captured by the blonde since they couldn't compete with his insane stamina. All of them tied by a leg to a rope that was clutched by the blonde to ensure that they wouldn't escape from him. A few of the braver and angrier avians were constantly pecking the hard head of the blonde. Huff ... Well, I've caught a bunch of birds. I wonder if these are enough, Naruto wondered. Ignoring the blows to the head, the only indication it was doing anything was the slight shake of his head with each peck. Aw, knock it off already. I only need you until I find out which of you guys is the billion bird. Then I'll let you go. Naruto waved the birds away from him. While it didn't hurt, it was annoying to get prodded over and over. I guess now's as good a time as any to start heading to shore. One of you is bound to be the billion bird. The captured animals didn't take too kindly to this and resumed pecking into the oblivious blonde's head just as he began to start walking again. Though he was stopped when he heard small peeps in the distance along with loud growls. What's that? Naruto put his hand over his eyes, looking in the direction of the noises to try and discern what was coming his way. Pip. A small chick burst from a bush and seemed to be in a panic as it passed by the blonde and his assortment of bird captives, panting as it waddled as quickly as it could from the predator that was chasing it. What was that? Naruto raised his eyebrow. Another rustle came from the bushes which revealed a large tiger beast. The animal had pink fur with a dark red overcoat and stripes that were even darker with yellow eyes. Letting out a roar as it appeared, the tiger bit it where the blonde was standing, causing him to run as well along with the birds flapping to keep up with him. What the hell? Naruto caught up with the chick and fell in step with it as he fled. Come on, normally I'd clock you, but I have a handicap here, Naruto complained. Don't attack someone that can't defend themselves. The cat and mouse chase continued for a good 10 minutes before Naruto started to get annoyed. Frowning and furrowing his brows, Naruto turned to look at the oddly colored tiger over his shoulder. Don't you have something else to chase? Naruto grumbled at the slobbering beast. It was then that the blonde looked into its eyes and noticed that, while the tiger was technically chasing both him and the chick, its focus was mainly on the chick. You aren't even after me, are you? Naruto reasoned, then took a great leap up into the treetops. Watching from above, the blonde pirate could see that the predator paid no mind to his absence and continued to run after the panicked baby bird. Scratching his head slightly, Naruto frowned and ultimately decided against helping the small chick as it wasn't his problem and he had to meet up with the others anyway to figure out if any of the birds he'd caught were the target. It'll be fine. Its parents can't be too far off. Naruto shook his head and hopped down from the branch. He looked to the flock of birds that were still giving him the stink eye for capturing them before trudging forward, his hand trembling as it held the rope, forcing himself to ignore the crashes happening behind him and the cries of the chick. He grit his teeth and his whole body started to shake. The small chick was backed into a tree trunk by the large predator, exhausted from running for so long. Small, pathetic noises came from its beak, staring into the crazed eyes of the tiger and watching the drool drip from its maw. The small bird closed its eyes in fear, not wanting to see its demise. In a last-ditch effort, the small creature let out one more desperate cry for help. Kick on someone your own size. Naruto snarled at the tiger, using his hands to keep the jaw of the tiger away from the surprised chick. The birds he'd caught were all flying away frantically, flapping their wings hurriedly before the foolish human could have the chance to recapture them. Grower. The tiger gave an annoyed growl as it looked at the blonde from the bottom of its eyes and put more strength behind its jaw. Naruto's hands buckled only the slightest bit before he reaffirmed his place and reopened the monstrous cat's mouth. I didn't want to get involved with you too. I know how tough the animals here are. Naruto looked out the corner of his eye and saw his hard work escaping into the jungle. I knew that I'd need both hands. He shifted his gaze to the chick behind him. And he didn't regret his decision. Pushing back the tiger, Naruto reared his fist back just in time to throw a wind-powered punch into the tiger's stomach while getting scratched by the tiger's claws. Sudarito. Naruto yelled and launched the big cat away from him. The large animal spun through the air and slammed through multiple trees, slowly losing momentum, and sliding down the trunk of a tree. Oddly, the tiger seemed to melt into mush and slinked off in fear of the blonde and to most likely reform. Sighing to himself, Naruto rolled his scratched shoulder to shake off the pain when he felt a small weight run up to his leg. Looking down, he saw the small eyes of the chick staring at him in appreciation as it hugged him with its tiny wings. Don't worry about it. I wasn't really doing it to save you or anything. I just don't like bullies. Naruto rubbed his neck with a small smile. With the small crisis averted, the blonde finally was able to take in the appearance of the chick. It was tiny, only reaching Naruto's shin, with red feathers and light yellow feathers on its stomach and face. The chick had puffy cheeks and a beak that seemed large for its small stature. It has two small eyes along with a lone red feather sticking up from its head and small feet with talons. All in all, it looked adorable and defenseless. Frankly, now that I'm getting a good look at you, I don't get why that tiger was chasing you. You don't look that tasty. Those last words stung the bird's heart as it began to cry. And you're a crybaby too. Naruto rolled his eyes at the sensitive creature and ignored it. Reaching down, he frowned at the remains of the rope that he'd used to capture the birds and sighed. All that hard work. Guess I'll just have to get to shore and wait for everybody. We'll have to figure out where this billion bird is on the way back. Naruto rubbed his chin and gave a nonchalant wave to the bawling chick. See you later and stay out of trouble. Peep. The bird clammed up when it saw the blonde was about to leave it behind and quickly waddled to the blonde's side, rubbing its head into his pant leg. Aw, quit following me. It isn't going to be any safer if you come with me, you know, and I'm not gonna keep saving you. Naruto crossed his arms, standing firm against the small chick's pleas. Peep peep, it pleaded, standing on its tiptoes to show that it wasn't going to leave him. Ugh, fine. But you have to take care of yourself and keep up. And no crying. Naruto conceded. It wasn't going to hurt to take the chick with him, and it wouldn't survive without someone watching it. So this was the best option ... but he didn't like it. Peep peep. The tiny bird bounced around its guardian happily. I hope you're happy. Because of you I lost a bunch of birds that could have been the one I was looking for. Naruto rolled his eyes at the overly affectionate charge he'd somehow gotten. Naruto, after losing his potential billion birds, has now found himself accompanied by a lone chick that has wandered from its nest. With no recourse, Naruto has decided to continue to the rendezvous point with his companion in tow, planning to meet back up with his crew and Toriko and find the billion bird on their return trip. The muscular chef had been walking at a sedate pace through the cave, bored out of his mind at the lack of excitement. He expected the hunt to be as exciting as it had at the start with the confrontation with the regal mammoth, but falling into the caves was the furthest thing from exciting for him. While not completely upset about the predicament since it allowed Toriko to save his energy ... and a real man would want a great challenge to be essentially sidestepped by happening upon the safest route. The others are probably having a ball, Toriko grumbled, imagining Naruto and Ichigo being chased by a huge amount of the beasts, and being forced to fight them off in a huge battle ... the lucky bastards. Sigh, why did I have to fall in the caves? Toriko's complaining was cut off when he caught a whiff of blood within the dark confines of the caves. Going on alert, the blue-haired Bishokuya saw a trail of bodies laid before him, all of them the cave beasts that populated the area. The sight set the chef's blood on fire, his face contorted into a demonic visage from this waste of life. The fact that whatever had done this did so without the intent of eating the animals, and simply did so because it could, and clearly without effort since the blood belonged only to the creatures, was disrespectful to them all. And given the terrain of this cave ... the culprit was most likely ahead of him right now. Whatever had done this wouldn't get away with it ... and Toriko had a pretty good idea of who that could be. After seeing the injury the regal mammoth had sustained, there wasn't a doubt in his mind. Bishokukai, Toriko snarled and shot off down the cave, rushing to find and bring the murderer to justice. Ahead of Toriko, a figure was sat upon a beast that was making its way through the cave. The beast didn't seem to mind the killer sitting on its back and kept moving with a happy grin on its face as if it was a pleasure to serve the figure. Your kind certainly has its uses, I suppose. You're lucky that I didn't kill you, the figure chuckled darkly. In the darkness of the cave, no features of the figure could be made out other than it being covered in fur, and what appeared to be a long beak. Nothing in the caves. Seems like I'll be needing to move on to a different lane. The figure looked behind itself and chuckled. Guess that means they didn't have to die after all ... Oh well. Toriko, previously thought to have found the safest path to the shore, has happened upon a massacre that he cannot ignore. Running through the caves at a breakneck speed, he hopes to find the offender and bring them to justice for killing the defenseless creatures that call the underground system home. Rumble, rumble, rumble. This is getting ridiculous. Ichigo's eye twitched in annoyance. Behind him, the boulders had grown in number considerably. Where there had once been one, there was now at least 10 ... and they'd appeared to throw all stealth to the wayside as they audibly shifted behind the swordsman to follow. They aren't even trying to hide anymore. Ichigo frowned, stopping his stride to rub his temple, and got bumped into by one of the moving boulders. Knock it off, he sighed. The boulder continued to nudge him repeatedly. That's it. Ichigo drew Zenjutsu and swung at the annoying boulder. You wanna fight me, huh? Then come out and do it, you bastards. The boulders shook in place but didn't move. I know you're alive already. Don't make fun of me. Ichigo kicked one of the boulders away from him angrily, teeth sharpening to points as he itched to get these creatures away from him. The boulder he'd kicked grew arms and legs and took on the appearance of a golem. It clapped its hands when it landed and the other boulders followed suit, growing their limbs as well. Ho, 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 ho. The creature all stood next to each other and attempted to do a coordinated pose, but it came off as the opposite as some were off-center, others faced the wrong direction, and one was completely clueless and stood. What the hell? Ho. The leader beat its chest to appear intimidating to the human and laughed along with its pack at outnumbering the swordsman. What kind of animal are you anyway? Ichigo said, unimpressed. The leader tripped over itself at the unexpected response and became angry, deciding to lead the charge against the swordsman. The golem raised its fists to smash Ichigo into paste. In the blink of an eye, Ichigo appeared behind the lead golem and hefted his blade onto his shoulder. The leader fell behind the swordsman after a gash had appeared on its rocky exterior, and sliced into the soft meaty interior, unmoving. Now we're getting somewhere. Ichigo smirked at the scared creatures. Don't go getting cold feet now. You picked this fight. Ichigo jumped at one of them, intent on cutting it down, only to use Zenjutsu to block a fist from the side. He was sent flying from the punch and then was spiked into the ground by another golem, kicking up dirt that obscured the vision of the other, but it didn't stop them as they all joined in to punch the ground. With heavy fists, the blow rained in the area that Ichigo had landed, hoping that the human had been ground into a fine paste that they could lick off their hands. Soon, once exhausted, the rock monsters stopped their attack and breathed heavily, waiting to see their handiwork and lap up whatever they could scrape off the ground. Unfortunately for them, something so small could never hope to put down the swordsman for more than a few seconds. A 360-degree horizontal slash from the smoke cut down another 3 of the golems. The sliced creatures fell to the ground around Ichigo, who had just stood back up, cracking his neck, some blood running down his forehead. Ichigo didn't seem fazed by the blows. Hope that wasn't it, because you guys are gonna have to show me how tough this island can get, Ichigo smirked. The golems all roared and charged back in to take out the pirate and rise to his challenge. All while this happened, a figure off in the distance, similar in appearance to the figure in the cave but much larger, was prone in the tall grass, and was watching the battle taking place with a blank expression on its beak-like face. Ichigo now finds himself thrust into a battle with large crustaceous golems that have been following him since he arrived in the large field. His peaceful trek, while interrupted, has brought the challenge he'd been looking for from the famous gourmet island and maybe one bigger than he can handle. So much better, Ruko sighed comfortably from within. A giant furball. Behind her, the large dragon had been shaved and left completely bald. The poor creature shivered from both the cold and the fear it felt as the girl walked away with the fur she'd taken from it. Its eyes were wide in shock and a snot trail had frozen on its face as tear streaks were visible from its eyes. Thanks for the fur, fella. Ruko waved back with a sinister smile that made the dragon wail in sorrow as it watched its luxurious fur walk away. Hey, Senketsu, you awake yet? She got no response from the thawing clothing inside. At least I'm warm. Ruko looked on the bright side and began to move forward toward her destination, the sound of crunching snow beneath her with each step. Those guys better be alright or they'll wish the animals were the least of their worries. Behind her, a pair of glowing eyes appeared in the howling winds, unaffected by the cold as it followed closely behind the walking wad of fur that Ruko was wrapped up in. Trudging silently behind its prey, the figure was yet another furred creature with a beak, and its footprints left behind in the snow showed that it had 3 toes in front and 1 in the back. Ruko has conquered her environmental hurdle and has resumed her walk to shore, awaiting Senketsu's reawakening. The navigator is left handicapped in the cold area, which may prove to be a dangerous circumstance. Thiep, let go of him. Naruto jumped up, legs outstretched to land on an animal's open mouth as it tried to drop the chick inside. Naruto managed to catch the chick before it could fall into the creature's throat. Throwing the baby bird up and out of the monster's maw, Naruto thrust his fist into the mouth of the beast. Ken, Naruto called and watched as the monster's insides bulged and it was smashed into the ground from the force of the blow, joining the other unconscious creatures on the jungle floor that had tried and failed to eat the chick. Geez, what's so special about this guy? Naruto huffed and caught the chick in the palm of his hand as it landed upside down. Thiep, he doesn't even look tasty, you guys. Thiep, the chick wailed in sadness. Stop crying. What I tell you? Naruto angrily told the chick and caused it to cry louder as he put it down. The rustling of the bushes next to them caused the two to quiet as they awaited what they assumed was another animal. The chick retreated behind Naruto's leg and peeked to get a look at what was coming while its guardian put his fists up and got ready for another fight. Neither expected to see a human-sized creature emerge from the bushes, dragging an animal by its bloodied head in its hand. It took notice of the blonde in front of him and brought a finger up to scratch the side of its head. The strange creature was covered in black fur with no visible neck and had fingers and toes that seemed mechanical in nature. Its face took the appearance of a beak with a slit running down the middle, giving the impression it could open up vertically, and 2 circles where the eyes would be but had no pupils and didn't seem to be separate from the face. The new arrival looked down to the blonde's ankle and saw the chick quickly retreat behind the appendage to hide from the creature's gaze. Seemingly becoming surprised by its sudden stiffening, the odd creature dropped the animal that was in its hand and stalked toward the blonde. Standing over Naruto, the mysterious being spoke. Hand over the billion bird. Well, what are you supposed to be? Naruto stood unafraid and more amazed at the creature he'd never seen before, blinking with a blank look on his face as he looked into the creature's eyes. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. And comment down your opinion on this video. Thanks for stopping by and I'll see you in the next one.